bad stuff. I got no bandwidth. Still Gonzo, paging Dr. Gonzo. Paging Dr. Gonzo. Hello.
In countries where your father is doing official government
by the way,
business.
well, I don't know what to tell you. I made a mistake in
Well,
retrospect.
this is not the debate. How did that happen? But how do you watch the debate and put something else on in front of us?
Zub, can you hear me?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure what happened there. I had a little bit of a
Great.
internet burp here.
Ah,
And it says how to watch the debate. Okay. People there on CNN. It should on CNN's homepage, right? So I was on CNN's homepage, and I clicked into here. Maybe they're having some technical difficulties as well.
maybe so.
Maybe James O'Keefe brought him down.
It could be. I suspect China. So,
Yeah.
who's your favorite? I don't like the Democratic lineup, that whole white, but who's your favorite?
No, we've established that.
True.
But Corey Looker, right, though. To this, yeah.
So you seem to be having some stuff for internet problems. I don't think you paid your bill.
Yeah. Something like that.
You're choppy as hell, man.
Hopefully I'm solving this. Oh yeah. I got screen going on. I got messages popping up. What's going on here? All the push notifications coming through now. Thank you. Thank you, social media. There's still no debate on their homepage. Like, oh, here we go. Watch CNN Live. They should be still doing intro and stuff anyway. So there's.
In plain sight, he has given us the evidence, and he tried to cover it up, putting it.
Oh no, they're off and running. All right.
In that special server, and there's been a clear consciousness of guilt. This will not take very long. Donald Trump needs to be held accountable. He is indeed the most corrupt and unpatriotic president we have ever had.
Senator Booker, you have said that President Trump's, quote, moral vandalism disqualifies him from being president. Can you be fair in an impeachment trial? Please respond.
So, first of all, we must be fair. We are talking about
we must be fair
proceedings to remove a sitting president for office. This has got to be about patriotism and not partisanship. Look, I share the same sense of urgency of everybody on this stage. I understand the outrage that
it's kind of a maroon purpley thing. That's kind of a weird statement. Like Dems are supposed to wear blue, right? Isn't that their deal?
Country together doesn't rip us apart.
Wow,
anybody who has criticism
needs all
about
the help
the process that
he's got a head like a penny.
Making all the facts bare before the American public, that works to build consensus. That's what this nation needs in what is a moral moment and not a political one. So I swore an oath
A moral moment,
to do my job as a senator, do my duty. This president has violated his.
There must be some definition of that word that I'm not aware of.
Booker, Senator Klobuchar, you have. What do you say to those who fear that impeachment is a distraction from issues that impact people's day-to-day lives? Healthcare, economy, backfire on Democrats.
You're kidding me. I think it is just locked up. A couple more things. As soon as they get it, I'm jumping ship. Absolutely.
I got a little whiskey going.
We can do two things at once. That's our job. We have a constitutional duty to pursue this impeachment, but we also can stand up for America because this president has not been putting America in front of his own personal interests. He has not been standing up for the workers of Ohio. He's not been standing up for the farmers in Iowa. And I take this even a step further. You know, when he made that call to the head of Ukraine, he's digging up dirt on an opponent. That's illegal conduct. That's what he was doing. He didn't talk to him about the Russian invasion.
Is it illegal to
find out from him.
Point out that somebody did something illegal?
Right. The President of the United States is the chief law enforcement enforcer of the country. And it's within his purview to ask other countries to help investigate corruption. And if he's doing so corruptly himself, well, God damn it, that's his right.
Our allies for slaughter, where Russia then
vote him out if
steps
you don't
in
like
to
it.
protect them, how that makes America great again. And I would like to hear
I mean, I agree that the optics are just shitty, but he's not doing anything different in that call than Biden himself did.
It doesn't make America great again. It makes Russia great again.
And that's the guy that's running for president. So you're going to let one guy go that is running for president, that was the vice president and is running for president and engaged in the exact same activity.
I will not do that.
Thank you, Secretary.
That this guy is allegedly engaging in. How do you it just makes no sense to me.
I'm just impressed that Biden got a payout for
all of us are out there every single day.
Well, you know, Papa Joe's not going to be around forever.
What we're going to do to make sure that more people across the graduation stage, that more families have great health care.
That's not American. I don't know what it is.
Broken promises. Ohio, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. Actually, in the last not only did the Mueller report point out 10 different instances where the president obstructed justice or tried to, and he made that call to President Zelensky of the Ukraine.
Man, this just sucks balls. What's going on with my internet tonight? We were having big storms that rolled through here just a little while ago. That may have something to do with it.
Pay your bills, son.
Yeah, you keep saying that.
Sub, are you running like any services in the background? I mean, is your kid watching porn? What the hell is that?
I don't know. The kids might be streaming stuff upstairs or something. I'm gonna try and knock out. This might get a little noisy here, but I'm gonna take this out. Let's see what this does. What do we got? We might have.
Ukraine, but he is ongoingly, in an ongoing way, violating his oath of office and abusing his power. We have to impeach this president, and the majority of Americans not only support impeachment, they support removal. He should be removed.
Ongoingly.
Mayor Buttigieg, you have said that impeachment should be bipartisan. There's been obviously very little Republican support to date, yet Democrats are proceeding. Is that a mistake?
Well, it's a mistake on the part of Republicans who enable a president whose actions are as offensive to their own supposed values as they are to the values that we all share. Look, the president has left the Congress with no choice. And this is not just about holding the president accountable for not just the things emerging in these investigations, but actions that he has confessed to on television.
He's left them with no choice other than every attempted article of impeachment that's gone up over the last 3 years, and the Mueller investigation, and the outcome of that. He's left them no choice.
I think what it is, they don't have a chance at winning 2020 unless they do something.
They don't with anyone on this stage.
After the Trump presidency.
Right.
Remember, one way or the other,
I'm telling you, if they put Michelle Obama to run, Jesus, she'd be
what it's
unbeatable.
going to be like, what it's actually going to feel
there
like
was
in
a
this
rumor
country.
last week that
The first
Hillary
day
was
the sun
thinking of
comes
getting
up
into the race
after
again,
Donald
even
Trump.
though she said she wouldn't. But that was being floated last week.
This particular brand of chaos,
I think she even said it.
will be over, but really think about where we'll be. Vulnerable. Even more torn apart by politics. Than
That's
we
right.
are.
Make room for more whiskey.
From the economy to climate change have not taken a vacation during the impeachment process. I'm running to be the president who can turn the page and unify a dangerously polarized country while...
Ah.
Do they have Bernie on?
Maybe. I mean, you know, they probably got him propped up somewhere. That's a double entendre.
I mean, we truly have Mystery Science Theater 3000 production value.
We certainly do. Well, we could just make up our own shit now.
The question is, yeah, does it really matter? Because we know this is going to come down to impeach Trump, Trump bad, 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 impeach, 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 and give free shit away, take the guns, take the guns. Is that not true?
Tackling those issues that
are well, no, and healthcare for everyone, and let everyone in, open the borders. So
I'm for that. I'm for Medicare Part A for everybody.
By these
Just cut the
hyper-partisan
4 and 8 out, get us
interests,
the hell
it
out
will
of the
only
Middle East,
further
and
divide
pay
an
for
already
Medicare Part A.
terribly divided country. Unfortunately, this is what we've already seen play out as calls for impeachment really began shortly after Trump won his election, and as unhappy as that may make
That's
us
what I
as
said.
Democrats, he won that election in 2016. The serious issues that have been raised around this phone call that he had with the president of Ukraine and many other things that transpired around that are what caused me to support the inquiry in the House. And I think that it should continue to play its course out, to gather all the information,
she had me up to there,
provide that to the American people.
You know, at least she
that
differentiated
is the only
herself.
way forward. If the House votes to impeach, the Senate does not vote to
think
remove
this
Donald
lady is
Trump. He walks
persuasive
out and he
and
feels
beautiful and of
exonerated, further
childbearing age.
deepening the divides in this country that we cannot afford.
Thank you, Congresswoman.
Yeah, but
Mr.
apparently
Sauer,
she
you've been
also
for
loves
15
Muslims or something.
years. Does there need to be bipartisan support?
Well, we all have our
Anderson,
fetishes.
this is my first time on this stage, so I just want to start by reminding everybody that every candidate here
And to be clear, nothing
is more
wrong with
decent,
loving
more
Muslims, but
coherent,
she
and more
loves the
patriotic
wrong
than the
ones.
criminal in the White House.
Well,
Like Assad.
But I also want to point out,
I don't know. Is he a Muslim or is he a sectarian? I'm not even sure about that. I know they still have the Khomeini, you know, the supreme leader or whatever, and they kind of have this weird power-sharing structure. But Assad might even be a sectarian, or what do you call it?
So in fact,
Like,
impeaching and removing
yeah,
this
sectarian or
president is
something.
that the American
That's
people
the
are
word.
demanding.
I'm going with
They're
that.
the voice that counts, and that's who I went to.
I'm not going to look anything up because
Mr.
if
Yang,
I
do you
do,
think
it
there's
might
already enough evidence
freeze
out
the
there
video
to
again.
impeach the president?
It'll
Please
crash your
respond.
dial-up modem.
I support impeachment, but we shouldn't have any illusions that impeaching Donald Trump will, 1, be successful, or 2, erase the problems that got him elected in 2016. We're standing in the great state of Ohio, the ultimate purple state, the ultimate bellwether state. Why did Donald Trump win your state by 8 points?
Good. Just get up there and insult him. That's the way to win.
And we're not stopping there. How many of you have noticed stores closing where you work and live here in Ohio? Raise your hands. It's not just you. Amazon alone is
Oh, we couldn't get a shot for that?
Right, nobody raised their hands, that's why.
Yeah.
Jeez. He's not even wearing a tie. This fucker's not wearing a tie.
Well, he's a rock star, more than Beto.
Wow. I I no longer wear ties, but that's because I self-identify as non-binary.
I'm trying to
Although
find.
I will wear a cravat.
There's got to be another freaking stream of this. You said they were streaming it on Facebook. This is just horrible. I think this is just their site.
Jesus. Well, so, we could take the opportunity to kind of roast the Republicans a little bit. I mean, they're idiots, too. I mean, they're horrible.
These are the problems that got Donald Trump elected, the fourth industrial revolution. And that is going to accelerate and grow more serious regardless of who is in the Oval Office. The fact is, Donald Trump, when we're talking about him, we are losing. We need to present a new vision, and that even includes talking about impeaching Donald Trump.
Mr. Congressman O'Rourke,
Oh, cool.
Please respond.
Really big guy.
I think about
Frost is going to join us here in a little bit.
Everyone who's ever served this country in uniform. We have two examples here on the stage tonight, Mayor Buttigieg and Congresswoman Gabbard. Those who have willingly sacrificed their lives to defend this country and our Constitution.
I can't stand him
We
either.
are the inheritors of their service and their sacrifice. And we have a responsibility to be fearless in the face of this president's criminality and his lawlessness. The fact that as a candidate for the highest office in the land, he invited the participation, the invasion of a foreign power in our democracy. As president, he lied to investigators, obstructed justice, fired James Comey, head of the FBI, tried to fire Mueller, head of the investigation, then invited President Zelensky to involve himself in our politics, as well as China, in exchange for favorable trade terms in an upcoming trade deal.
Thank you,
if we do not hold him to account, if there is not justice, not only have we failed this moment, our Constitution and our country, we have failed everyone who has sacrificed and laid their lives down on the line, and we cannot do that.
Thank you, Congressman. The impeachment inquiry is centered on President Trump's attempts to get political dirt from Ukraine on Vice President Biden and his son Hunter. Mr. Vice President, President Trump has falsely
Another power tie.
Oh, wait, yeah, let's hear this.
Of doing something wrong while serving on a company board in Ukraine. I want to point out there's no evidence of wrongdoing by either one of you. Having said that, on Sunday, you announced that if you're president, no one in your family or associated with you will be involved in any foreign businesses. My question is, if it's not okay for a president's family to be involved in foreign businesses, why was it okay for your son when you were vice president? Vice President Biden?
Look, my son did nothing wrong. I did nothing wrong. I carried out the policy of the United States government in rooting out corruption in Ukraine. And that's what we should be focusing on. And what I wanted to make a point about, and my son's statement speaks for itself. He spoke about it today. My son's statement speaks for itself. What I think is important is we focus on why it's so important to remove this man from office. On the 17th...
Ah. But you see, you and I are conversing. You can see my mouse moving around, right? So this is like CNN screwing up something going on.
Nope, you're choppy, man.
Oh, I am?
You're coming across choppy.
Shit. I mean, I don't really have anything else
You're
running.
choppy. Yep. Pay your bill, sub.
Yeah.
Freaking hippie.
Let's see if I can find a couple of rogue processes to kill here. Well, that's why we do these beta streams, so I can figure this shit out.
Reminds me of?
No, go for it. Lay it on me.
Did you ever see Boston Legal, the show?
Worried on the first time being elected president.
Denny Crane. Yeah, he was the
guy that in our elections. It was the greatest threat to America.
Man, I can't remember. It's been so long since I saw him.
3 occasions has invited foreign governments and heads of government to get engaged in trying to alter our elections. The fact is that it is outrageous. Rudy Giuliani, the president, and his thugs have already proven that they, in fact, are flat lying. What we have to do now is focus on Donald Trump. He doesn't want me to be the candidate. He's going after me because he knows if I get the nomination, I will beat him like a drum.
Mr. Hold on, sorry, I just want to follow up. Mr. Vice President, as you said, your son Hunter today gave an interview, admitted that he made a mistake and showed poor judgment by serving on that board in Ukraine. Did you make a mistake by letting him? You were the point person on Ukraine at the time, if you can answer.
Look, my son's statement speaks for itself. I did my job. I never discussed a single thing with my son about anything having to do with Ukraine. No one has indicated I have. We've always kept everything separate. Even when my son was the Attorney General of the state of Delaware, we never discussed anything. So there'd be no potential conflict.
Another position I arranged for him to have.
I'm proud of the judgment he made. I'm proud of what he had to say. And let's focus on this. The fact of the matter is that this is about Trump's corruption. That's what we should be focusing on.
Senator Sanders, your response.
Let me make a point. I think that it is absolutely imperative we go forward with impeachment. I hope that he is impeached. But I think what would be a disaster if the American people believe that all we were doing is taking on Trump, and we're forgetting that 87 million Americans are uninsured or underinsured. We're forgetting about the existential threat of climate change. We are forgetting about the fact that half of our people are living paycheck to paycheck. So what we have got to do is end this corruption, set a precedent for future history that says presidents like this cannot behave this way. But we cannot and must not turn our backs on the pain of the working class of this country.
Senator Sanders, thank you. Mark?
See, he's very eloquent, son, but he's also
So I have made clear what my principles are here, and that is costs will go up for the wealthy and for big corporations and for hardworking middle class
Get Frost in the line.
Hold on, I'm waiting for him. Give me 3 seconds of silence here. I want to try and do a little audio tweaking here. Just take a deep breath. All right, I think that's better.
Sony, not the B-side. Sub, my insignificant other has wandered in the room.
Hi, Mrs. Dr. Gonzo.
She gave me the finger. She did not like you at all. Jesus.
Or do I say hola?
Right. She's Hispanic. She's legal.
Well, yeah,
she woke me up the other day, Sub, sharpening a fucking kitchen knife right over top of me. That's how she woke me up. I'm talking about a full chef knife.
Well, she must be Puerto Rican then, would be my guess.
She did. Holy shit, nailed it.
Nailed it.
You nailed it. She even dropped the John Bobbitt thing. She's like, these are the things I want you to do today, and don't forget what happened to John Bobbitt. I'm like, fuck. I guess I'm doing those things. So much for a black belt. That doesn't mean shit. You gotta eat.
Hold on. I'm trying to get Frost on here.
All right.
Damn it, if I had my interstitial screens ready, I would kick one of those out right now, and we could say all sorts of nasty stuff.
Right.
I guess I could do that. I could just go back to this. Let me do this.
clarify, Mr. Vice President, would you want American troops back in northern Syria?
I would want those 1,000 troops to be protected by air cover, those 1,000 troops that are having to withdraw under fire, make it clear that they're not going anywhere, and have them protected, and work my way back toward what in fact needs to be done, protecting those Kurds. They lost their lives. This is shameful, shameful what this man has done.
Congresswoman Gabbard, last week you said that American troops should get out of Syria now. You don't agree with how the president handled the withdrawal.
This was an interesting point that we were talking about in the Trump that I think it was the Trump thread earlier today.
We've got to understand the reality of the situation there, which is that
I think it was BKR that said it and just kind of set the wheels in motion.
Another negative consequence of the regime change war that we've been waging in Syria.
And it was something to the effect of, all right, well, let the doves come out and show us their wings now.
Politicians in our country from both parties who have
right, so Trump's pulling out. He's bringing troops home.
In 2011, along with many
and the Democrats are losing their freaking mind.
Have been championing and cheerleading this regime change war. Not only that, but New York Times and CNN have also smeared veterans like myself for calling for an end to this regime change war.
Holy shit, she's a vet.
Just 2 days ago, the New York Times.
Oh yeah, I think she was like a pilot or something.
Saying that I'm a Russian asset and an Assad apologist and all these different smears. This morning, a CNN commentator said on national television that I'm an asset of Russia. Completely despicable.
What a douchebag move to call her an asset of Russia.
I will end these regime change wars by doing two things. Ending the draconian sanctions that are really a modern-day siege, the likes of which we are seeing Saudi Arabia wage against Yemen, that have caused tens and thousands of Syrian civilians.
Oh, no, she's not the pilot. The pilot was some lady that was running here in Texas. I can't remember her name now. Gabbard served in a field medical unit of the Hawaii Army National Guard. So basically, she did exactly what George W. Bush did. Oh, no, but she actually deployed. She deployed to Kuwait. Okay, so I'll give her that. Combat veteran. Yeah, I'll give her that.
Some of those Natty Guard guys had their terms of service extended too while they were over there. It's horrible.
Is that he has sucked up to dictators.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, that's, yeah, it's either that or, like, you need the people there, right? So you could either extend people that you already have, that are already trained, or you could go to the additional expense, which is both going to be political capital and actual monetary capital, to train up new forces via some sort of draft. Right? And so we don't want that to happen. Like, nothing in the Middle East was beyond our ability to contain if we didn't have various rules of engagement and, the balls to just, like, turn the place to glass.
Oh, I totally hear you, but the recruiters would like telling those Natty Guard prospective members, like, you'll never see combat.
Congresswoman, I think that
round
is
three,
wrong.
whatever,
the slaughter going on in Syria is not a consequence of
in a position they were never trained for.
Well, so that's I was thinking about that too, because when this conversation came up in the thread, I immediately brought up Cindy Sheehan, and that was her argument, was that the recruiters basically lied and said, well, you're going to be, like this super hotshot computer expert or whatever, and you'll never ever see combat, is what she claims that the recruiters told her son. And, to some extent, I know that happens, but I had no disillusion when I joined the military that there was a very real possibility that I could die overseas fighting in some war. You're joining the military. Like, what the fuck do you think it is? Like, you are required to learn to use a gun and be proficient with it. And then, depending on what you end up doing as your MOS, you're required to use even bigger and nastier weapons. Like, what do you think is going to happen if shit hits the fan? Right.
You're not a moron, so that's not a common characteristic. Not at the age of 18.
To support having U.S. troops in Syria for an indefinite period of time to continue.
And that's exactly why we don't have the draft, because we have the people that volunteer and sign up to go and do exactly that, to put their lives on the line. And, you know, to some extent, yes, there is a little bit of, hero syndrome in everyone that has ever signed up for voluntary military service. But you know what? We signed up and we went and did it. We put our lives on the line. So it's like, it's not out of the realm of have they ever watched a movie? Ever? Like, it's just part of our idiom. Like,
please allow him to respond.
I apologize because you're the vet. I'm speaking out of turn, but if I'm signing up for Natty Guard, I'm thinking I'm going to drill once a month and I'm doing some hurricane support. You know, maybe picking up some chicks in uniform. I'm not thinking like, holy shit, I'm in fucking Afghanistan and they're shooting at me.
When I was deployed, not just the Afghan National Forces, the janitors put their lives on the line just by working with U.S. forces. I would have a hard time today.
If that is their pitch, I'm not aware of it. As any kind of official thing. And I think at one point, you know, we did have, so this goes back to before Clinton, actually, because when we really started downsizing the military was in the 90s, early 90s under Clinton. You know, like we were sloughing off stuff so fast that you had to be in some sort of imminent need to train with a firearm. You couldn't get live ammo out of the government at a couple of points during those years, the first term of Clinton, because they were just shutting everything down and, you know, putting the clamps on spending for the military. So you couldn't even train with live ammunition for a while unless you were going to a front line somewhere. That is scary stuff. But prior to that, you know, like in the 80s, right, we had, you know, so this is following up on the Great White Fleet, right? So that carried us through the 70s and into the 80s, where we had just a tremendous amount of military spending. And a lot of that was driven by the Cold War with the Soviet Union, right? There was no expense spared on military spending for the most part. And then it was like, you know, shutting off a faucet. It was just like, boom. So I can certainly see at one point that, you know, like being in the National Guard, you know, like you look at like George W. Bush. Okay, well, you know, National Guard, yeah, you'll never see combat. Yeah, I could see how that was maybe perception at one point in time. But that certainly stopped being true during the 90s, and that certainly covers the period of time when Cindy Sheehan's son was on active duty, because that happened after, that happened in the late 90s, because that was under W.
Well, that's certainly true, although I'll tell you...
that happened in like 2004, 2005. So this is like a decade after they've been cutting the military. Like, and we're engaging in conflicts, right? We're going back to Iraq multiple times. So yeah, it doesn't seem to make sense to me that anyone would think that there wasn't a danger of you going to combat if you enlisted in the National Guard.
Well, that's certainly true in the historical time frame you laid out. That being said, I'll tell you who saw combat. That was Dick Cheney, because he shot the guy that criticized him in the face.
Think about our other allies, Israel.
I mean, he saw combat.
No, that was a hunting accident. Come on.
Oh, sure.
In the Mideast.
I criticize him, Cheney shot him in the face.
When he pulls out of the Iranian agreement.
Let me tell you who I'm not going to criticize and then go hunting with. And that's fucking Dick Cheney.
China and Russia. Think about the
not a chance.
agreement with Russia that he precipitously pulled out of. This is part of a pattern. It's not an isolated incident.
You, Senator. Senator Harris,
we should probably be listening to what they're saying.
Our Kurdish allies, what would you do as president to convince the rest of the world that we can still be trusted?
That's a great question, Anderson, because the Commander-in-Chief of the United States of America has as one of her greatest priorities and responsibilities to concern herself with the security of our nation and homeland. I serve on the Senate Intelligence Committee. I have, over a period of time, received classified information about the threats to our security and hotspots around the world.
So that's one thing that she did right there that was a big point of criticism for me at the last debate. Almost everyone on stage, they wouldn't say, you know, when I'm president. They didn't own it, right? They were all like, you know, well, the next president should be, you know, the president should do this and the president should do that. They didn't say, this is what I'm going to do when I'm president. They were all kind of taking this point of view that they were definitely going to lose. So to hear Kamala right then kind of, I don't want to say anthropomorphize, but, you know, kind of put herself into that role as she's speaking, that's pretty powerful from a rhetorical perspective, and you know, from like, not that I agree with anything that she says, but as a mode of communication during the debate, that I think was a very smart thing for her to do, and you know, I think that others should be doing that, but they're not if you listen to them for the most part.
I think that claim would be a lot more compelling if they did it in song. If I were president.
Tremendous mistake, a total disaster there in Syria.
Oh, they can all get up and do like, you know, Showgirls or 42nd Street.
Right.
The chorus line.
That this president says to contain your nuclear weapons program when
the talent portion of the
Iran
debate.
Nuclear agreement that we just signed 4 years ago, which was the strongest agreement to contain Iran's nuclear weapons program, and now he's abandoned the very people that we gave our word to. I would make sure that we work with our allies to pressure Syria to stop the aggression. And I support efforts at stronger sanctions than this president has announced.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary.
Senator
How
Booker,
to
the
stop Iran
American
from having
intelligence
nuclear weapons?
community says that Russia is trying to capitalize on the power vacuums around the world, as we're seeing.
Well,
right
I
now
don't
in
know
northern
that they have them,
Syria.
but I know that
What
they were
specifically
close
would you do as
a
president
couple years ago.
to
So
Vladimir Putin's power on the world stage?
You could enrich your uranium in your fucking garage if you wanted to.
This
They got
president
them.
is turning the moral leadership of this country into a dumpster fire.
So yeah, I mean, I think maybe they do. I think they probably lack all of the technical ability to affect a good delivery system. I know they've got nice short-range missiles, right? Because they sell them to Hamas.
And so clearly, to your question,
And I know that they've been in talks with North Korea and have exchanged stuff back and forth. But neither of them. Hold on. I'm gonna bring Frost in. Let's get a Frost in here.
are unacceptable. Russia and Putin understand strength, and this president, time and time again, is showing more.
All right, I got to stop the video to make this happen, so you're going to lose video for a moment here.
He's going to protect this nation. Well, instead of doing something to defeat ISIS, he's now given them a foothold again. This is an American president that even right now is lying to the American public and saying he's bringing our troops home. At the same time, he's increasing troop presence with the Saudis, and while they're involved in an unjust war that is killing tens of thousands of children in Yemen. This president is making us...
Frost, you there?
He is partnering more with Putin than he is with Merkel and Macron. And as President of the United States, I will stop this and restore American integrity.
Thank you, Senator.
Oh, hey. Are you there?
Maybe doesn't make me any better or worse, but maybe the
hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Extensive time alone with Putin.
Okay.
All right.
I don't know if it'll be feedback because I'm watching it over here.
Yeah, you might want to kill that. It's like when you call into a radio show. Yeah, you don't want to do that.
I don't know if I can do this then because we're trying to watch the show and my wife's here.
Oh.
I'll turn it down. Can you...
Oh, yeah, you just turn down your... How does that work? Turn down your microphone.
Here, I'll just mute myself.
It's actually not too bad. I'm trying to figure out, now that I've got us all in here, how do I get the video back? Really? I can't do...
Oh, man, I'm not even wearing a shirt. I just got back from the gym.
No. I'm not putting your video on. I'm trying to figure out how to put... So you can... Can you see my screen?
Watching this together. I can't see anybody's screen.
All right, so that's the problem I'm trying to solve right now. So I don't know if you need to say, all right, yeah, I can do video, or I don't know what the hell's going on here.
That has not been
Damn it! Why do we do this in Facebook? This is just
been to
annoying
make
as shit.
sure that the regime did not wipe out hundreds and thousands of innocent people between there and.
Well, I'd like to plant a flag in the ground. It may have been the first time somebody took a shit on one of your podcasts.
But lastly, what is happening in Iraq?
Oh, damn it. All right, so Gonzo's here, by the way.
Afghanistan, as well as all the way over to Syria. We have
Frost, how you doing?
going to come here. They are going to
He's on mute.
damage the United States of America. That's why we got involved in the first place and not ceded the whole area.
Dude, seriously, I can't share video if there's 3 people. What a piece of crap. Facebook, get your shit together. This is untenable.
Actions around the world. They suggest the next president could fight back by publicly revealing what the U.S. knows about Putin's corruption and work with allies to
Man,
freeze
this
his bank
is
accounts.
annoying.
Would you take either of those
Really?
actions, even in the face of possible retaliation?
All right, well, you guys won't see, but you could, if you're watching on the, so you could pull up if you want. Yeah, I can hear you. So I guess Facebook, like in a group call like this, I can't share my screen. So if you wanted to see what's going on, you just grab the live stream, and it might be a second or 2 behind, and just turn your volume down if you can. Obviously, Frost, you're watching it with family, so.
Yeah, I'm just 75-inch TV.
On the global stage, we do that by renewing our alliances and our friendships. That is what makes America stronger. There isn't enough money. There are enough service members as brave and courageous as they are to do everything that we.
You know, she sounds kind of shaky and not sure of herself tonight, I think, compared to the last debate. That's kind of been my take on her this evening. I'm not sure if there's something going on there. Maybe I just missed it before.
In Syria, help to defeat ISIS, not just for themselves.
But she actually kind of sounds to me like she's speaking in front of a crowd for the first time, which I know is obviously untrue, but like you can hear like this quavering in her voice, and it's like she's scared or is having heart palpitations or something is going on there. It's weird.
No, she's always had the shaky voice. I'm about to hear Beto say something fucking stupid.
Resolving our foreign
Frost,
policy
we're trying to
goals,
avoid any
not on the backs of
profanity
18
here.
and 19
Oh, are
and
you
20
recording this?
anymore,
sure.
but making sure that our diplomats
We've had a
are
strict rule
invested
of no
in, have
profanity.
the focus necessary by this next
Are
president
we talking
to
about
make sure
us
that they can
here?
accomplish those
Oh, wait,
goals
hold on.
for
Beto,
the
the
country.
dumbass is talking.
Thank you, Congressman. Mr. Steyer, would you publicly reveal what the U.S. knows about
Oh, wait, I hear your guys'
Putin's
feed, and
corruption
you're
or
way
work to freeze
ahead.
his bank accounts? Please
All right, hold on. Let me pause myself or something.
As far as I'm concerned, Mr. Trump's America First program, which involves having no plans, having no process, and having no partners, is proved to be a disaster in Syria. It's proved to be a disaster in terms of our response.
You know, the presidency is just something on his bucket list, right? It's like, just like Trump is like, oh yeah, I've got the money, I can make this happen.
Great.
But no, I don't think so.
I wouldn't want to be president. Jesus.
He's got no persona, right? Like you could spend all the money you want, right? Look at Romney, right? Romney is a freaking robot, and like he's multimillionaire. He bankrolled his entire campaign twice, and couldn't get the nod. So he's got no charisma.
So if you look at what Mr. Trump is doing, of course.
Mitt Romney was the idiot that ordered a cheesesteak with the wrong cheese.
Any problem that we're going to do, but specifically.
Well, you know, I don't get Wiz either. I'm a white American guy.
He didn't order Wiz or American. He ordered Swiss.
Alone, trust nobody and be untrustworthy is the worst idea I've ever heard, and I would change it on day one in every single way.
Mr. Yang,
Yeah, that would be kind of weird.
Of course. We have to look at the chain of events. How did we get here?
Especially because if you're in Philly, that's not an option.
Right, Wiz American approval.
With erratic and unreliable foreign policy, we have to let Russia know, look, we get it. We've tampered with other elections. You've tampered with our elections, and now it has to stop. And if it does not stop, we will take this as an act of hostility against the American people. I believe most
all
Americans
they're doing is
support
helping
me on
Putin
this.
because Putin is
Russian
nothing.
hacking of our
I mean, Russia
democracy
is nothing.
an
It's got the
illustration of
economy the
21st
size of
century
Spain.
threats.
It's all
Artificial
blather.
intelligence, cybersecurity, climate change, loose nuclear material, military drones, and non-state actors. These are the threats that are going to require our administration to catch up in terms of technology. We all know we are decades behind the curve on technology. We saw when Mark Zuckerberg testified at Congress the nature of the questioning. As Commander-in-Chief, I will help pull us forward.
Thank you. Mark,
and that's
I
going
want
to
to
be the responsibility of the next president.
I want to respond to Mr. Yang. I don't see a moral equivalency between our country and Russia. Vladimir Putin is someone who has shot down planes over Ukraine, who has poisoned his opponents, and we have not talked about what we need to do to protect ourselves from Russia invading our election. This wasn't meddling. That's what I do when I call my daughter on a Saturday night and ask her what she's doing. Sorry. This was much more serious than that. This was actually invading our election. So to protect ourselves in 2020, what we need, one, backup paper ballots in every single state. That is the bill that I need, and we need to stop Mitch McConnell from stopping that from happening. And then we need to stop the social media companies from running paid political ads, including ones last time.
So the elections in each state are the responsibility of that state.
Where those ads came from and who paid
So
for them. That's the honest
she wants
act.
to
That's
nationalize
the bill
elections.
that I lead, and we can't wait to become president to get that done. We need to get it done now.
Thank you, Senator. We want to turn back to domestic issues and the epidemic of gun violence in this country. We're less than 100 miles from Dayton, Ohio, where 2 months ago, a gunman killed 9 people using an AR-15 style weapon with a high-capacity magazine. Congressman O'Rourke, in the last debate, you said, quote, hell yes, we're going to take your AR-15, your AK-47. But when you were asked how you'd enforce a mandatory buyback, you said police wouldn't be going door to door. So how exactly are you going to force people to give up their weapons? You don't even know who has those weapons.
Look, we're going to make sure that the priority is saving the lives of our fellow Americans. I think almost everyone on this stage agrees that it's not right, and as president would seek to ban the sale of AR-15s and AK-47s. Those are weapons of war. They were designed to kill people effectively, efficiently on a battlefield. You mentioned the massacre in Dayton. 9 people killed in under 40 seconds. In El Paso, Texas, 22
And he didn't even have a bump stock.
3 minutes. And the list goes on throughout the country. So if the logic begins with those weapons being too dangerous to sell, then it must continue
was a
by
felon
acknowledging
and can't
the
legally
16
own a firearm, so you don't want anybody else to want
AR-15s and
to
AK-47s out there. They're also too dangerous to own. Every single one of them is a potential instrument of terror. Just ask Hispanics in Texas. Univision surveyed them. More than 80% feared that they would
Look,
be a victim
he's
of
going
a
for the
mass terror
pitchforks
attack like
here.
the one in El Paso that was targeted at Mexican Americans,
a weapon of
and
terror.
inspired in part by this president's racism and hatred that he's directed at communities like mine in El Paso. So I expect my fellow Americans to follow the law the same way that we enforce any provision, any law that we have right now. We don't go.
Okay, so all those people that took their guns and shot other people were not following the law.
Congressman, to follow the law. Just to follow
You
up,
come
your
to my property, I don't care if
expectations
you're wearing a
aside,
badge or
your
not.
website says you will
You're a
find
bandit.
people who don't give up their weapons. That doesn't take those
All right,
weapons
settle down
off
there,
the
Ruby
street.
Ridge.
So to be clear, exactly how are you going to take away weapons from people who do not want to give them up and you don't know where they are?
If someone does not turn in an AR-15 or an AK-47, one of these weapons of war, or brings it out in public and brandishes it in an attempt to intimidate, as we saw when we were at Kent State recently, then that weapon will be taken from them. If they
You know what would be a great
other
debate?
Consequences from law enforcement.
What's
but the
that?
expectation is that Americans will follow the law. I believe in this country. I believe in my fellow Americans.
I'm thinking it would be
Mayor,
a guitar battle
yesterday
between
you
Ted
referred
Nugent
to mandatory
and
buybacks
Beto
as
O'Rourke.
confiscation and said that Congressman O'Rourke has been
the Nuge
picking
would
a
win.
fight to try to stay relevant. Your response on guns?
Look, Congressman, you just made it clear that you don't know how this is actually going to take weapons off the streets. If you can develop the plan further, I think we can have a debate about it, but we can't wait. People are dying in the streets right now. We can't wait for universal background checks that we finally have a shot to actually get through. We can't wait to ban the sale of new weapons and high-capacity magazines so we don't wind up with millions more of these things on the street. We can't wait for red flag laws that are going to disarm domestic abusers and prevent suicides, which are not being talked about nearly enough as a huge part of the
Well, let's talk about suicide. So what is the handgun suicide rate for gay males or other LGBTQ LMNOPs?
This is a crisis.
78%. all suicides in the U.S. are straight
not mutually
male.
exclusive to the challenges.
They do use
that I'm
handguns.
describing. I want to make
It's
sure
very
we have
popular.
universal background checks and red flag laws, and that we end the sale of these weapons of war. But to use the analogy of healthcare, it would be as though we said, look, we're for primary care, but let's not talk about
If
mental
these
health care, because
fuckers
that's
try to take
a
away the
bridge too
Second
far.
Amendment,
People need that primary care now.
you're
so let's
violating
save
the
that for another day.
Constitution.
No,
They're
let's
behaving
decide
illegally.
what we are
The
going to
civil war
believe
that
in, what
comes
we are
from
going
them
to achieve,
is
and
their
let's bring
fault.
this country together in order to do that. Listening to my fellow Americans, to those moms who
And
demand
they
action,
should
to those
expect civil
students
war.
who march for our lives, who in fact came up with this extraordinary, bold peace plan.
You can't say the C word.
Buybacks. Let's follow their inspiration and lead, and not be limited by the polls and the
Well, because if you
consultants
do,
and the
you're going to
focus
be
groups
considered
that
a
we
domestic
have time
terrorist.
to do what's right.
Not I.
Problem is in the polls.
I'm a
the
law-abiding
problem is the
American.
policy.
Oh, you're
I
also a
need
cripple.
lessons from you on
I'm-
courage,
Yeah.
political or personal. Everyone on this stage is determined to get something done. Everyone on this stage recognizes, or at least I thought we did, that the problem is not other Democrats who don't agree with your particular idea of how to handle this. The problem is the National Rifle Association and their enablers in Congress, and we should be united in taking the fight to them.
That's a mischaracterization, Anderson. I got to answer this. Never took you or anyone else on who disagrees with me on this issue. But when you, Mayor Buttigieg, described this policy as a shiny object, I don't care what that meant to me or my candidacy, but to
shiny.
those who have survived gun violence, those who lost a loved one to an AR-15 and AK-47, marched for our lives, formed in the courage
How
of
many?
students willing
Do you
to
have
stand
that
up
number
to the
handy?
NRA and
How many
conventional
people
politics,
have died
cold-tested politicians.
by
That
an
was a slap in the
AR-15?
face to every single one of those
It's
groups
less
and every
than
single
1%
survivor
of 1%
mass
of all
casualty
preventable
assault with
deaths
an
for
AR-15
rifles in
and
total,
AK-47.
not just
We must buy them
AR-15s.
back.
What we owe to those survivors is to
I mean,
actually
like
deliver a
a
solution.
little
I'm
over a
glad you offered
dozen.
up that
I
analogy.
think it was the 9 in Ohio. I think that's
Of
it.
building a new American majority to
Meanwhile,
actually do things that
900,000
congressmen
preventable
and
deaths,
senators have been
and
talking about
a
with
vast
almost no
majority,
impact
99%
for
are
my
not
entire
rifles.
adult life.
Not guns of
This
any
is
kind.
really important, okay? On guns, we are this close to an assault weapons ban. That would be huge. And we're going to get wrapped around the axle in a
I'm going to
debate
start a
over whether it's
non-profit that will
hell
supply
yes,
any
we're gonna take the
law-abiding
guns. We
adult
have an
with an
opportunity to
AR-15.
deliver health care to everybody. And
That's
some
my
on this
goal.
stage are saying it doesn't count.
That's the
And
non-profit I
why
want to
we
start.
should do
I want to give other
That's what I'm saying.
candidates a chance. Senator Booker, what's your response to Mayor Buttigieg?
Well, look, I again worry about how we talk to each other and about each other, and what this last week has shown. As a young man in my neighborhood, I watched him grow up. I lived in some high-rise projects with him named Shahad, and he was murdered on my block last year with an assault rifle.
I doubt it.
I'm living with a sense of urgency on this problem.
Yeah,
because
we're going to need
my
to. We're going to
community,
need.
like millions of
His name was
Americans, we live in
Shahad.
communities where these
Shahad.
weapons, where these gunshots are
His
wielded
name was
every single
Jihad.
day. And I know where the American public is. This is not about leadership. This is why when I talk about things like gun licensing and point out the differences between us, I'm not attacking people or their character or their courage on these issues. We all have courage, but it's frustrating that when the American people, 77% of Americans,
So my
agree
new
on licensing,
nonprofit
we
that
don't
I'm
need
starting,
leadership right
the
now.
goal
We
is
just need folks that are going to
get
stand up
every
and follow where the
law-abiding
people already
American
are,
adult
because there
an
are
AR-15.
millions of Americans where this
If they
is
can't
a
afford it.
daily nightmare, where we're surrendering
And a
our
high-capacity
freedoms
magazine
to fear in this country.
and
This is the
1,000 rounds
first
of ammunition
time
lead.
in American history. This fall,
Yeah, I'm getting nothing
we have
for
sent our
Shahad.
children to school, the strongest nation on the planet Earth, and said to them,
If
we
Shahad
can't
had
protect
one,
you,
he
so
might
in
still
school
be
we're going
here.
to teach you how to hide. There are more duck and cover drills and shelter-in-place drills in America now than fire drills.
Thank you,
if
Senator.
I'm president of the United States, I will bring an urgency to this issue and
Senator
make sure
Klobuchar.
that we end the scourge of mass violence in our
Senator
country.
Klobuchar, Senator Warren supports a voluntary.
Well, the way you could start
excuse me, Senator Klobuchar,
as
you support a voluntary.
the chief executive of the United States,
What is wrong with a mandatory buyback?
if you need to have an armed guard around you at all times,
Of how close we are to finally getting something done.
you should address that issue, right?
I met one of the survivors.
Because if you get rid of that problem where you need to have an armed guard with you everywhere in advanced teams and all that kind of stuff,
The majority of Trump voters want to see universal.
you solve that issue, then you have solved
The majority
gun
of
violence and violence in general.
move forward.
You
with
see,
gun
so the
safety
nonprofit I want
legislation.
to start
There
will
are
supply
3 bills right now on Mitch
free
McConnell's
drugs,
desk.
free abortions,
Background
and
check
free
bill. My bill
AR-15s
to
to
close
every
the boyfriend
law-abiding
loophole
adult.
so
That's
domestic
the
abusers
nonprofit
don't
I
get
want to start.
guns. The bill to make it easier for police to vet
What is that?
people before they get a gun.
The old
That's what we should be
adage about
focusing on. And I just
the
don't want to
ATF?
screw this up. When I'm president,
Yeah,
I do want to
not
bring in an
necessarily at the same
Alcohol, tobacco, and firearms should be a convenience store, not a government agency.
Right. So it's not like we're going to give you an abortion, your drugs, and an AR-15 all at the same time. They're separate services, but all with a common cause.
Of assault-style weapons as well. Why not a mandatory one?
So, look, I want to get what works done. I want to use the method we use, for example, with machine guns. We registered them.
I want to get what's done working. How about that?
I definitely want a machine gun. They should pass a law to make that legal.
Well, they're sort of kind of legal if you get an old one and pay the right money. Hey, I got to step away for just a moment. I'll be back.
All right.
So you're flying solo, unless Frost wants to come in and chat with you.
Come on, Frost.
This country. It is about suicide. It is about domestic violence. This is not going to be a one and done, that we do one thing or two things or three things and then we're done. We have to reduce gun violence overall, and the question we have to ask is, why hasn't it happened? You say we're so close.
Children.
We have been so close. I stood in the United States Senate in 2013 when 54 senators voted in favor of gun legislation, and it didn't pass because of the filibuster. So you've got to attack the corruption and repeal the filibuster, or the gun industry will always have a veto over what happens.
Senator Harris, you disagree with Senator Warner. You think the buyback should be mandatory. Please respond.
5 million assault weapons are on the streets of America today. During the course of this debate, 8 people will die from gun violence. The leading cause of death of young black men in America is gun violence, more than the top other 6 reasons totaled. This is a serious matter. I have personally hugged more mothers of homicide victims than I care to tell you. I have looked at more autopsy photographs than I care to tell you. I have attended more police officer funerals than I care to tell you. I'm done. And we need action. And Congress has had years to act and failed because they do not have the courage. When I'm elected, I'll give them 100 days to pull their act together, put a bill on my desk for signature, and if they don't, I will take executive action and put in place a comprehensive background check requirement and ban the importation of assault weapons into our country, because it is time to act.
Senator Biden, Vice President Biden, your response.
I'm the only one on this stage who has taken on the NRA and beat them twice. We were able to get assault weapons off the streets and not be able to be sold for 10 years. Recent studies show that mass violence went down when that occurred. The way to deal with those guns and those AR-15s and assault weapons that are on the street, are not on the street, that people own, is to do what we did with the National Firearms Act as it related to machine guns. You must register that
Forgive me if I'm wrong here.
You must register it. When you register it, the likelihood
Am I back?
of it being
Yeah,
used
I am back.
diminishes exponentially. I'm the only one that got.
But isn't gun violence down overall since they even enacted the assault weapons ban?
Right, and they never count defensive gun use. So if you shoot a scumbag committing a criminal violent act, that's not counted.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Secretary Castro, the vast majority of homicides committed with a gun in this country are from handguns, not assault-style weapons. What's your plan to prevent those deaths?
Thank you very much for the question. You know, I grew up in neighborhoods where it wasn't uncommon to hear gunshots at night, and I can remember ducking into the backseat of a car when I was a freshman in high school, across the street from my school, my public school, because folks were shooting at each other. You know,
this guy's a pussy.
In the neighborhoods, let me answer this question.
Every morning, my fucking neighbor's shooting the goddamn armadillos.
Well, no, I get this. All right, so I actually sent Frost a story earlier that showed up on my Facebook today because, you know, I used to live in South Florida for a very long time, and so we still have a lot of friends there. And apparently today, or maybe it was yesterday or over the weekend or something, at the Boca Raton Mall. And just as a reminder, as a flashback to 2007, I think it was, there was a mom and her daughter that were shot dead in the parking lot of the Boca Raton Mall. So, you know, just to kind of like line everybody up on what Boca Raton is, this is the place where Jerry Seinfeld's parents retired because it's, this rich old people community. Very, it's very large. I think it's about 120,000 people total in the incorporated city. But very high property values. It's a very rich area. And so, the mall is a very hoity-toity kind of place. So for a mom and her daughter to be shot in the parking lot at the Boca Raton Mall was a shocker. Just like unlike anything that community had experienced since Hurricane Andrew, really. So, for 16 years, that's the worst thing that happened to them. Well, no, I take that back because AMI, well, that's a whole different story. But yeah, there's a 9/11 tie there. I'll get to it on a different day.
And it's gotten worse and worse, and we now know why.
So anyway, I think it was yesterday. I don't know. I'd have to look up the story, but apparently a janitor exploded a balloon, just a regular inflatable balloon, like in the food court. And people went apeshit. People crashed into the floor, people fleeing out every door, ambulances were called out. It was this huge big deal for a balloon. So when what's-his-face there is talking about, hey, I can remember diving into a car because I heard gunshots. Well, okay, he was a kid, number one. Number two, yeah, so like gunfire is not something that most people are exposed to. And if they were, they would regard it differently.
They said to him, the prosecutor, you got to face jail or you got to go to treatment. He picked treatment, and he was pursued by race, and he has been sober ever since. And now he's 91 and in assisted living.
Later on, I was like, oh shit, I get it. I mean, he was shot
around here anyway.
So, I mean, that shit happens. However, I mean, these guys are on stage, they're talking out their ass. There's not been a lot of AR shootings. There's not been a lot of AR deaths. It's all slither bladder. It's all
How would you address the opioid epidemic that exists here in Ohio and around the country? Please respond.
Well, I think this is one of the most heartbreaking experiences that America's had. 72,000 people died of opioid overdoses last year. And that's not only a tragedy for them, it's a tragedy for their family and their community.
So here you go. Loud noise.
We have to treat this as a health crisis. We have to move the resources and the support there to try and help people. But I think that Senator Klobuchar makes a good point. The reason I'm running for president is that we have a broken government. And we have a broken government because corporations have bought it. And every single one of these conversations is about that broken government. It's about drug companies buying the government and getting what they want. It's about the gun manufacturers buying the government and get what we want. We need
so the issue is the government is corrupt, and most of them need to go to jail.
Actual structural changes, including term limits, a national referendum.
Yeah, so maybe it's not the companies that are spending the money in Congress. Maybe it's the Congress that's taking the money.
Right, because of
who would have thought about that?
Right. If I'm the company, I'm spending the money. It's the corrupt government official that needs to go to jail.
Use of small amounts of opioids, including heroin, how would that solve the crisis?
That's exactly right, and we have to recognize this is a disease of capitalism run amok.
This is Frost's favorite candidate, by the way.
In the state of Ohio, than human beings in the state of Ohio, and for some reason, the federal government thought that was appropriate. They ended up levying a $600 million fine against Purdue Pharma, which sounds like a lot of money, until you realize that company made $30 billion. They got a 2%
well, here's where I disagree with Yang entirely.
Tens of thousands of
if the heroin addicts want to kill themselves, let them do it.
So if the government turned a blind eye to this company spreading a plague among its people,
that's their right.
All right, Dr. Kevorkian, settle down there. People can't kill themselves. That's not allowed.
And part of helping people get the treatment that they need is to let them know that they're not going to be referred to a prison cell. They will be referred to treatment and counseling. I talked to an EMT in New Hampshire, and he said he saves the same addicts over and over again. Because the
You
fact
can't
is, after you
before
save
abortion
someone who's
and against
ODing,
legal
you just bring them back to their house and they OD again the following week. So we need to decriminalize opiates
so
for
you
personal
didn't
use.
save
We have to
them.
let the country know this is not a personal failing. This
You
is
have a
systemic government
different
failing.
definition of
And then we
salvation,
need to open up safe consumption and safe injection sites around the country.
and not in the biblical sense.
Thank you, Mr. Yang.
Right.
But like, if someone is engaging in the same self-destructive behavior over and over and over again, and you patch them up and send them home, and they do it again, you haven't solved any problem. You're not some hero.
Because they're touching fentanyl. So all I'm saying is, we give this courtesy to a horse or a dog. If somebody wants to kill himself, let him go.
At the VA. Now,
Quit
imagine
stigmatizing it.
instead of being prescribed
If they're
an
adults,
opioid, had been prescribed
little kids, let 'em
marijuana
go.
because we made that legal in America, ensured that VA could prescribe it, expunged the arrest records for those who've been arrested for possession, and made sure that he was not prescribed something to which he would become addicted. I also want to agree with Senator Klobuchar. Until we hold those responsible accountable for their actions, Purdue Pharma, Johnson & Johnson, we're going to continue to have this problem going on again. So that veteran that I met, and anyone with drug addiction today, is not a problem for the criminal justice system. They're an opportunity for our public health system.
Senator Harris, you want to hold the drug manufacturers that fueled the crisis accountable. Are you in favor of sending those drug company executives to jail?
I am. And I will tell you, as a former prosecutor, I do think of this as
That was,
being a
Kamala.
matter of justice and accountability, because they are nothing more than some high-level dope dealers. They have been engaged.
As if a good drug dealer wasn't.
We wouldn't have the fantastic medical system that we have now that nobody can afford if it wasn't for the leaders of these companies leading these companies to be able to develop these things. And this is experimental science. That's the frontier that they are forging through every day, right? And when you talk about like malpractice and you know, things like when drugs go bad, like fentanyl and things like that. Well, okay, so you know, we did everything that we were supposed to do as a corporation to be able to bring this to market. We poured millions and millions and millions of dollars of research into it. We went through all of the hoops that the government made us jump through in order to get this thing to market, and it went bad, and it's unfortunate. And yeah, so now you want to sue us out of existence? Like, that doesn't make any sense. There will be no healthcare system.
Yeah, but I mean, even more than that, it didn't go bad.
To destroy our country in states like Ohio.
Thank you, Senator. Secretary Castro, are you in favor of sending those drug company executives to prison? Please respond.
Yes, I am. They need to be held accountable, not only financially, but also with criminal penalties. And, you know, you can draw a straight line.
Then you need to demonstrate a crime that they have committed.
Whether it's these drug manufacturers.
Let me tell you something. For quadriplegic wants an opioid, give it to him. It's a patient with ALS.
Thank you.
Now to the issue of candidates and their health. Senator Sanders, I want to start with you. I want to start.
Oh, this will be good.
I'm healthy. I'm feeling great, but I would like to respond.
I want to start by saying.
And Senator Sanders is in favor of medical marijuana. I want to make sure that's clear as well.
Senator Sanders, this debate does mark your. This debate. This debate, sir, does mark your return to the campaign trail. Okay, go ahead.
So Bernie just made a joke that he's actually not high right now.
But I wanted to pick up on what Kamala and Corey and others have said. Let's take a deep breath. Take a look at this opioid epidemic. You have executives, CEOs of major pharmaceutical companies making tens of millions of dollars a year. And in this particular case with the opioids, they knew that they were selling a product.
He's a fucking piece of shit. I know quadriplegics, ALS patients, cancer patients that don't even bother asking for the fucking opioids anymore, and they need it because they get treated like criminals and all the paperwork and $400.
This is what unfettered capitalism is doing to this country. And it's not just
opioids are cheap, by the way, until these fuckers start bringing lawsuits and messing with it.
Industry know full well.
So the unfettered capitalism where these people are in the hospital and their doctors who are accepting their Medicare or Medicaid or insurance are giving them the opioids in the first place.
We're all very glad you're feeling well, as you just said.
What?
But there is a question on a lot of people's
Let me tell you
minds,
something.
and
You
I
order
wanna address it
opioids
tonight.
from Mexico
You're
or China
78
or
years old,
Canada.
and you just
They are
had a heart
fucking
attack.
dirt cheap.
How do you
All these
reassure
lawsuits,
Democratic
all this other
voters that
bullshit.
you're up to
Tylenol
the
3.
the presidency?
Well, let me invite you all to a major rally.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
BernieSanders.com.
But that's the classic Tylenol 3 has codeine.
And we are going to be mounting a
Right, but
vigorous
the problem with the
campaign
Tylenol is the liver interaction.
all over this country.
Well, you're going to get that with any non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug, right?
Tylenol the most. You would be astounded at the number of Tylenol.
Well, it's Tylenol, it's Advil, it's Norvex, or
Tylenol most of all.
Thank you from the bottom of
Acetaminophen most
I'm so
of all.
happy to be back here with you this evening.
I'm actually pissed about that stuff. You know, I'm a cancer survivor. I'm very active in that community, and the cancer patients don't get their fucking drugs because of these nincompoops.
The duties of the presidency at 80 years old. Why are you so sure that you can?
Because I've watched it. I know what the job is. I've been engaged. Look, one of the reasons I am running is because of my age and my experience. With it comes wisdom. We need someone to take office this time around who on day one can stand on the world stage, command the respect of world leaders from Putin to our allies, and know exactly what has to be done to get this country back on track. It is required now more than any
if he was not
to have someone who has that capacity on day one. That's one of the reasons why I decided to run. Why I decided
I'm gonna say
to
this
run
delicately.
Because I know what has to be done. I've done it before. I've been there when we pulled the nation out of the worst financial recession in history. I've been there, and
I like his argument that he is the most qualified.
Affordable Care Act, as well as making sure that we had the Recovery Act, which kept us from going into depression. I know.
And if it was just that about him, then he would be the guy on the stage that I would pick if I had to pick one.
21 years of my tax record. There's no one else on this
But
stage who's done.
Sit on the tree of woe.
Full
What are you talking
transparency
about?
as to my health and what I am doing.
Just to be clear, Mr. Vice President, when will you release those records?
I wouldn't elect this guy on my worst day.
Before Iowa.
Yes.
Not by
No, I mean I like the idea that he's been there, he's been in the office.
I mean, I've released 55 pages of mine. I've only got
He's been closer to being the chief executive of the United States than anyone else on the stage. And so from that perspective, I think it makes him uniquely qualified. But
under the age of 70 is more likely to defeat President Trump.
he has this dementia thing going on. He is apparently a closet pervert of little children, male or female.
Mike Pence or whoever the Republicans get stuck with.
And I just don't like his politics.
The way I
Well,
see
here,
this,
I mean, here's who I like. If you had to pick from these fucking losers,
is by addressing head-on
Yang
what
and
millions of
that
Americans
lady
know in
vet,
their bones.
like that'd be the
And that
ticket.
is that the
That
wealthy
being
and
said,
the
if you had to pick
well-connected
somebody to beat Trump, it would probably be
captured our
Warren and
democracy.
Yang.
And they're making it work
On the other
for
hand,
themselves
these
and
are a bunch
leaving
of fucking
everyone
losers.
else behind.
Now, Trump,
Political
Jesus
pundits
Christ, we can
and
talk about
Washington
Trump all night.
insiders and shoot
I don't even
people
know how he
in
got
our
to
own
Trump,
party
but
don't want to admit that. They think that
I mean,
running
if you had to
some
pick
kind
among
of
these losers,
big
the best of them is
campaign
Yang and the vet,
that
and if you had to
nibbles
pick
around
somebody
the
politically
edges
to
of
beat
big
Trump, it'd be
problems
Warren and
in
Yang.
this country is a winning strategy.
So I think about it as like kind of a long, I want to say long con, but you know, a long strategy, right? And I think where they screwed up is they played the Obama card too soon. They should have put Hillary up instead of Obama. And she was going to be the one. And, you know, the thing that happened that really took it away from her was Obama, right? And now she's beyond her ability to do it. So, but if they had put her up first and let the Obama 8 years instead be the Hillary 8 years, then they could have rolled right into Obama and we would still be in Obama right now.
do my best
Well,
to stay
you
in
know,
shape.
I don't
But here's
believe
the real
Australia
question I believe
actually
you should be
exists,
asking
and I
is,
think
who
the
is
UK,
fit to
because
serve
they
as our
worship the
commander-in-chief?
Queen and the
This
system
is
by
the most
despise,
important
but to
responsibility
borrow the
that the president
vernacular
has.
of
What
our
Donald
UK
Trump
and
has been
Australian
doing
friends,
in Syria
Hillary is
and
a
what we
horrible
have
cunt.
just seen with him
She's
inviting
never
the
elected
Turkey
to
to
anything.
come
She's
in
a
and
horrible
slaughter the
cunt.
Kurds
And
show what
Obama
an
is a piece
unfit
of shit.
president
He's
looks
a
like.
scumbag.
It
Now, Trump
highlights
is also a
how critical it is
scumbag.
that we have
You
a
look at
president
these
commander-in-chief
losers, I
who's
guess
ready
it's
on
Warren
day
and
one, bringing
Yang. The
experience
only good
and
ones are Yang
understanding
and
in
the
foreign
vet, that
policy
lady.
and national
But what
security.
a shit show. And Trump is
Bringing the
a fucking
experience that I
circus
have,
show. And he
both
accurately
serving in
reflects
Congress
the
now for
mirror of
nearly
America
7
right
years,
now. And I
serving on the
guess
Foreign Affairs
collectively,
Committee,
so do these
serving on the
losers.
Armed Services Committee, subcommittees
Jeez.
related to
Pathetic.
terrorism and upcoming threats.
This is
serving on the
your
Homeland Security
vet
Committee, the
chick
experience
speaking right
that I
now, by
have
the way.
as a soldier, serving for over 16
Tulsi
years in
Gabbard.
the Army National Guard, deploying twice to the Middle East, being able to serve in different capacities, joint training exercises, training the Kuwait National Guard. I understand the importance of our national security. I am prepared to do this job, to fulfill this responsibility as Commander-in-Chief on day one. I'd like to ask our other candidates this question. I'd like to start with Senator Warren. What her experience and background is.
I'm sorry, thank you.
Well, Bob, if you were to put together a ticket of this vet chick and Yang, with the vet chick in the lead and Yang as VP, that might get my vote if they could alter their gun policy.
Yeah. So the one thing that I think that ticket doesn't have is a seasoned politician, right? So that's
as if that was a good thing.
Well, it's not, and that's why, ostensibly why Trump was elected in the first place, right? So, he was outsider from politics, if you can believe everything, and he came in to drain the swamp, and that's what he said he was going to do. So, that was his core message. He was not the status quo. He was something new. But they tempered the Trump ticket with Pence, right? So a seasoned politician, regardless, is a seasoned politician. So that's what they needed to back up the crazy of Trump, was to have.
The crazy of Trump, like Mike Pence isn't fucking crazy. That guy's crazy as fucking little.
Well, no, it depends on your point. Depends on your point of view.
Jesus Christ, that guy actually believed God has a plan for him. He's talking to him.
Well, a lot of people believe that, and I know that we both think that it's unfortunate because we tend to be skeptical and atheists, but a lot of people still do believe that, and so part of the realm of politics is you have to some extent you have to understand and sympathize and well, not sympathize, but empathize and embrace the culture of the people that you want to vote for you. So, I don't know. I think that's all I have to say on that.
I don't think such a party exists. Clearly not. I mean, the libertarians claim to, but they're like pathetic. If you could just leave me the fuck alone, and I'll leave you alone. Like that's the campaign promise I want. Leave me the fuck alone, and I'll leave you alone. Pence, he believes in fucking leprechauns. Trump is a New York social liberal, fiscal conservative, and he's a brash, vulgar cunt. Hillary Clinton, a totally corrupt cunt. Elizabeth Warren, a joke. The Republican and Democrat parties organize crime groups. Yang and the vet, I like. I guess if they want to have a run at Trump, you got to put Elizabeth Warren on there so you get the Native American vote. But, I mean, what a shit show. Totally disappointing. And I blame Frost. I blame Frost for all of it because he is the spirit of America. He's getting his master's degree in psychology. He's crazy. He's got Tourette's. And he's a fool. And so are the rest of us. We're all fools.
He's also probably rolling over on his couch right now.
I hope he is. Saying that,
hold on. But let's back up here a little bit because, I think you are unfairly attaching Libertarian Party, capital L Libertarians. Those people are crazy. And they have as their mission, one of their mission statements is to remove all religion. That's not what true libertarianism is, right? Not the live and let live kind of philosophy that I try and live by, right? Like, if you want to go believe in a flying spaghetti monster, like, good on you. Like, if it comes down to an argument about policy where we have to discuss whether or not there's a flying spaghetti monster, well, you decided that you wanted to be on that side of the argument. But if you're doing that and it has nothing to do with me, good on you. Go for it. That's different from what a key plank in the capital L Libertarian Party has been for, I mean, as long as I can remember, is that they are actively trying to remove any possibility or any mention of religion in a lot of places.
It's not that I disagree with you, because I don't. It's that you're investing in these definitions, these social constructs, this sophistication, and I'm just like, look, leave me the fuck alone, I'll leave you the fuck alone, and I don't care about all the bullshit. I don't want to pay income tax. I'll pay a flat sales tax. If you make me pay income tax and threaten me with jail with the force of gunfire, I guess I'll pay it because I'm at your mercy. But the Democratic Party is a corrupt, organized crime group. The Republican Party is a corrupt, organized crime group. They're scumbag, scum of the earth. And Congress, 2/3 of them, scum of the earth. Every president in my adult lifetime, scum of the earth. Dropping bombs on people that didn't attack us. For shame, for shame, for shame. It's all foreign aid. It's all lined in their pockets. Fuck them. Don't give them any money. Don't give the universities money. Don't give the government money. Get out of my paycheck and my wallet. Leave me the fuck alone. And let me have my solar panels. Let me have my drugs. Let me have my guns. Fuck off. If I want an abortion, fuck you. Leave me alone.
That competition doesn't solve all the problems. It's not like any of us wants to use the fourth best navigation app. That would be like cruel punishment.
Anyway, yeah. So Andrew Yang talking now.
So it's not like breaking up these big tech companies will revive Main Street businesses around the country. And as the parent of two
that's
young
not the
children,
argument.
I'm particularly concerned about screen use.
No, the reason why, so the question on the table is, do tech companies like Facebook, Amazon, and Google need to be broken up?
Coincident with smartphone adoption and social media use.
And he's going in and talking about, you know, the quality of service and shit like that, and like cost of goods, and that doesn't have anything to do with why the question is being asked.
We need new solutions and a new
The problem is that they're trying to play both sides of the common carrier argument, right? So they want everyone to use their platform as a social platform with impunity. They want to be able to say, all right, well, anyone can come on here, but we can kick anyone off. Now, where that gets a little bit weird, there's a couple of places where it really trips up for me.
Happen in bricks and sticks stores happen.
Hold on, let's listen to what Pocahontas has to say.
49% of all sales online happen in one place. That's
no, she's talking about retail too. This has nothing to do with retail. This is not a like mom and pop shop versus the giant conglomeration. This is a freedom of speech issue.
With those little businesses. Look,
so here's the real deal.
They don't even understand the question or why it's being asked. Like, all right, let's see who else gets to answer this thing. I kind of, this one's kind of important to me, and I kind of want to watch what some of these answers are. I could go on a long diatribe, and I have already, but.
Mr. Steyer, your response?
Look, I agree with Senator Warren that in fact monopolies have to be dealt with. They either have to be broken up or regulated, and that's part of it. But we have to understand that Mr. Trump is going to be running on the economy. He's going to be saying he's the person who can make it grow. I started a business from scratch, one room, no employers, and built a multi-billion-dollar international business. We're going to have to show the American people that we don't just know how to tax and have programs to break up companies, but also talk about prosperity, talk about investing in the American people, talk about harnessing the innovation and competition of the American private sector. In fact, if we want to beat Mr. Trump, I think somebody who can go toe-to-toe with him and show him to be a fraud and a failure as a business person and a fraud and a failure as a steward of the American economy.
You are a failure as a billionaire.
Necessary. He is one. His tax plan's a failure.
Like, why are you even still in this race?
Is a failure. I would love to take him on.
I mean, maybe, you know, the money that you committed to it isn't all dried up yet, but if you were a smart business person, you would see that you have no fucking chance in hell. Get out.
big tech companies like Facebook and Amazon?
Anybody that does not think that we have a massive crisis in our democracy with the way these tech companies are being used, not just in terms of anti-competitive practices, but also to undermine our democracy.
Okay,
so
so Booker here is actually
now. We need regulation and reform and antitrust. I mean, Robert Bork.
Okay,
right now
so
is
what was your question?
In his sleep. We have a reality in this country where antitrust from pharma
we have
to
the power to turn the
is
phones
causing
off.
trouble.
The central debate is republic versus democracy, and the uncomfortable truth. The mob is dumb, and because the mob is dumb, power laws will occur, and natural monopolies will occur with power that exceeds that of nature.
When looking at this stage, we know that the most unhealthy person running for the presidency in 2020 is Donald Trump.
Thank you, Senator. Congressman O'Rourke, you say you're not sure if it's appropriate for a president to designate.
Oh, man.
Did you lose it?
I'm getting buffered. What the F?
But, I mean, this is my point, though. I mean, like, democracy versus republic. The problem is the mob is dumb. And natural monopolies occur. There's a power law, and they grow to power that exceeds governments.
Yeah, well, that's established social theory, I believe. Yeah. So I mean, that's obviously something that the founders knew, and that's guided some of their decisions on how this government was to be shaped.
So we have the power as individuals to turn off our phone, but I mean, you still end up with a Facebook, and Jesus Christ, they can move an election. They can not only move an election, they can control an election if they want to. And that's terrifying. Sub?
Yeah, I'm here. I was wetting my whistle, as it were.
Well, as it were. So, I mean, that's the problem. Like, this is the uncomfortable truth. Artificial entities or individuals can get a natural power law effect that the plebeian mob buys into, and then their power exceeds that of governments, and they can single-handedly control an election. And that buys them nuclear power and every other fucking thing. I don't have an answer for it. I'm just raising the question.
All right, for the sake of conversation, while we're waiting for this, I'll stipulate that is a possibility.
Russia don't scare me. China don't scare me because they have incentives that can be aligned, understood. But a Facebook under the control of a single crazed individual and a team of crazed individuals and the power they wield, and a couple of college students who some went to Google, some went to Amazon, some went to Facebook. The power they wield if they act in harmony is terrifying. I don't have an answer. I'm just raising the question.
Well, so, and that's where it gets a little weird because, specifically with Facebook, and I'm not defending Facebook at all. You know, they're as pretty much as bad as it gets when we talk about, these big media companies that are interfering with, or providing a platform to interfere with, if they're not engaging in it themselves, our natural governmental processes, right? So Facebook actually outsources almost all of their censorship to regional companies, which I found pretty interesting. Now they do have directives and goals to meet and things like that are handed down from corporate, but they're not employing these people themselves. So they've found a way to kind of give this plausible deniability, I guess. Like, oh, well, oh no, that was censored because, Joe Bob's censor company in Atlanta did it. That wasn't us.
So there's all kinds of plausible deniability, no accountability. And what I think all the listeners on this podcast want to know, is Frost a member of the Illuminati, and is Bullshido on the take?
Yeah. What is this?
Well, don't think for a second that by your silence, anybody is fooled.
No, I'm just responding to... What the... This everything keeps shifting focus. Freaking CNN, fix your site. Everything else is working fine.
Bullshido keeps going down, Sub. So you can distract us with the wag the dog all you want about the Democratic debates, but this is censorship.
Well, that's because we're actually serving CNN from there. God damn it, I was looking forward to more stupidity here.
And it has not escaped my notice that you very frequently refer to anonymous investors into Bullshido, which is clearly George Soros.
Yeah, we should be so lucky to have his money. That would be nice. Which is an excellent opportunity to remind people that, hey, we do have merchandise for sale. We have some T-shirts left, I believe. And we have hats that are new this week. Although I think all the gray ones are out, but we still have, I think, a couple dozen of the black, and it looks like they're pretty popular, so we'll probably look to be getting another order. We have some other merchandise ideas on the back burner that hopefully we'll bring up soon. And what the hell is wrong with CNN?
So while you stepped away, some of the ground that was covered was you're asking us to buy merchandise from a site owner, namely Frost, that is opposed to solar panel, hates dogs, eats dogs, hates kids, has stepped on kittens, and is generally opposed to a vibrant middle class and lower class. How can you possibly expect us to buy that merchandise?
You should be on the panel of the Democratic National Debates. I'm not going to answer any of those questions because too leading, and you've kind of injected your own narrative. But let's get these debates back online.
That's what we're all waiting for, Sub.
Well, it's not my fault. This is CNN's fault this time. I killed my game.
You actually said that you wanted to put women in jail. Then you tried to dial it back, and you said you wanted to put doctors in jail. That is exactly what the Alabama law is. It put doctors in jail for 99 years. You, Donald Trump, are not on the side of women. You are not on the side of people of this country when over 75% of people want to keep Roe v. Wade on the book. When over 90% of people want to make sure we have available contraception. You defunded
Check this
Planned
out. Like
Parenthood.
Warren is like consistently on the top of this
Senator Booker,
poll here.
If states prevail on restricting abortion, how would you stop them? Please respond.
Well, first of all, let's be clear about this law. These laws we see from Alabama to Ohio. They're not just attacks on one of the most sacrosanct ideals in our country, liberty, the ability to control your own body. But they're particularly another example of people trying to punish, trying
Actually, I
to
don't
penalize,
think that thing makes
trying
any
to
sense.
criminalize poverty. Because this is disproportionately affecting low-income women in this country, people in rural areas in this country. It is an assault on the most fundamental ideal that human beings should control their own body. And so the way, as President of the United States, I'm going to deal with this is, first of all, elevating it like we have with other national crises to a White House level position. And I will create the Office of Reproductive Freedom and Reproductive Rights in the White House and make sure that we begin to fight back on a systematic attempt that's gone on for decades to undermine Roe v. Wade. I will fight to codify it, and I will also make sure that we fight as this country to repeal the Hyde Amendment so that we are leading the planet Earth in defending the global assault we see on women right now.
Congresswoman Gabbard, your response.
This is often
He's really
one of the
going
most
for the
difficult
female
decisions
vote
that a
tonight.
woman will ever have to make, and it's unfortunate to see how in this country it has for
Half
so
the women in the
long
U.S. oppose
been used
abortion.
as a divisive political weapon. I agree with Hillary Clinton on one thing, disagree with her on many others, but when she said abortion should be safe, legal, and rare, I think she's correct. We see how the consequences of laws that you're referring to can often lead to a dangerous place, as we've seen them as they're passed in other countries where a woman who
It's
has a
not
miscarriage
illegal.
past that 6 weeks could be
I'm for the
imprisoned
Sweden model.
because abortion
Legal
would
abortion up
be
to 18 weeks,
illegal
and
at
after that,
that
18
point.
to 22,
I do, however,
doctor,
think that
intense.
there
After
should
that,
be some
well, you're
restrictions
fucked.
in
Should've done it
place.
before then.
I support codifying Roe
You
v.
can call me
Wade
a man.
while
I'm
making
non-binary. I
sure
don't
that
think
during
so.
the third trimester, abortion is not an option unless the life or severe health consequences of a woman are at risk.
Thank you very much. The Supreme Court is currently made up of 5 Republican-appointed justices and 4 appointed by Democrats. The court
I
just
could maybe
announced it
see
will hear
her as the
arguments in a
VP.
case challenging some abortion rights.
Is this the
Vice
vet? I
President
can't
Biden,
see.
Yeah, that was
does not specify the
what's her
number of
face?
justices that serve on the Supreme Court. If Roe v. Wade is
Damn it,
overturned on your watch,
Tulsi Gabbard.
you can't pass legislation in Congress. Would you seek to add justices to the Supreme Court to protect women's reproductive rights?
I would not get into court packing. We had 3 justices. Next time around, we lose control. They had 3 justices. We began to lose any credibility for the court has at all. I want to point out that the justices I've supported, when I defeated Robert Bork, and I say when I defeated Robert Bork, I made sure we guaranteed a woman's right to choose for a better part of a generation. I would make sure that we move and insist that we pass.
No, I think that was Roe v. Wade that did that.
Is already there. Things have
I mean, I'm for legal abortion, first trimester, or mostly second trimester. But if I have to choose between justice of the court, gun rights, and abortion, I'm going to choose gun rights because I can't get pregnant.
Reproductive rights are a constitutional right. And in fact, every woman should
I love
have
guns.
that right. And so I would not.
Well, it comes down to
pack the
morals,
court.
right?
What I
So
would do is make
if
sure that
if
the
you
people
think
that
that
I
you have a
recommend
moral
for the court,
obligation to
from Ruth Bader Ginsburg
protect
to Andy
life,
Kagan, who used to work for me, to others,
then
that they,
you
in
have
fact,
to be able to
support
draw a
the right
line
of privacy
as to
on
what
which
is
the
life that you're
entire
willing to
notion
protect.
of a woman's right
So
to choose
it's not
is
that I
based.
disregard
And
you
that's what
personally.
I would
I don't give
do.
a fuck
No
about
one
your
would get
morals.
on
I
the
just
court.
love guns
And
and I
by the
can't
way,
get pregnant.
if in fact at the end of this, beginning next year, if in fact one of the justices steps down, God forbid, in fact, I would make sure that we would do exactly what McConnell did last time out.
Look at this. He's given the strategy right here.
Mr. Vice President. Mayor Buttigieg, you have discussed
He's basically saying
expanding the court from 9 to 15 justices.
Ginsburg is
What's your response
going
to
to
That's right. When I
die in the chair.
proposed
Like
reforming the
she's
Supreme
not
Court,
giving
some
up.
folks said that was too bold
She's
to even
waiting
contemplate.
for
Now,
a
I'm not
Democrat
talking
president.
about packing the court
She's a
just
great
with
lady. I
people
think
who
she
agree
is.
with me. Although I certainly will appoint people who share my values.
What-
For
what a
example,
fucking
the
hero.
idea that women's reproductive freedom is an American right.
I
What I'm
disagree
talking
with
about
you
is
politically,
reforms
but
that will depoliticize the court. We can't go on like this, where every single time there is a vacancy, we have this apocalyptic ideological firefight over what to do next. Now, one way to fix this would be to have a 15-member court where 5 of the members can only be appointed by unanimous agreement of the other 10.
Yeah.
Smarter
So
legal minds
you're
than mine
going
are
to
discussing
get
this in
that
the
constitutional
Yale Law
amendment
Journal on how this
passed?
can be done
Not going to happen.
without a constitutional amendment. But the point is that not everybody
If the
arrives
Democrats
on a
opened up
partisan
the
basis.
guns, boy,
There are other
you'd
reforms
find
that
me
we could
an
consider,
advocate.
from term limits. Don't
I
forget,
was a
justices
Democrat
used to
for
just
guns.
retire like everybody else.
Right.
To a rotation
I'm a
off the
Republican,
appellate
but still.
bench.
Thank
I'm
you.
not wedded to a particular solution, but I am committed to establishing a
Thank you,
commission
Mayor
on day
Buttigieg.
one that will propose
I'm
reforms
for
to
universal
depoliticize
Medicare Part
the
A,
Supreme
guns,
Court
and
because we
abortion.
can't
Thank
go
you
on
very
like this.
much, Mayor Buttigieg.
That's my
Secretary
party.
Castro, he's talking about making the court bigger. Your response, is it a good idea?
You know, we haven't listened to all the questions, but I got to say, I am kind of slightly impressed at this panel. Have been, they've been asking some hard questions, and they're not being unprofessional, but they're like, hey, no, your time's up, your time's up, your time's up, your time's up, and they'll just keep talking until they stop talking. So kudos on that. Like, I think that they're being reasonably fair.
The precedent of Roe versus Wade, that we codify Roe versus Wade, and that we do away with things like the Hyde Amendment, because you shouldn't only be able to have reproductive freedom if you have money. We have to think about people who do not, people who are poor. And we have to concern ourselves not only with reproductive freedom.
Well, that's why they give condoms out for free in elementary
the
school.
ability to every woman to be able to make a choice and to be able to have her healthcare needs met.
Yeah, but if you
Senator
jack
Warren,
off or have oral sex, there's
adding
no
more
pregnancy.
justices to the Supreme
Well, then
Court
you're just not
to
a good
protect
Catholic.
Roe v. Wade. Your response?
Right.
I think there are a number of
Yeah.
options. I think,
No pedophilia.
as Mayor Buttigieg said, there are many different ways. People are talking about different options, and I think we may have to talk about them. But on Roe versus Wade, can we just pause for a minute here? I lived in an America where abortion was illegal, and rich women still got abortions because they could travel, they could go to places where
Abortion
it
and
was legal.
guns only for
What
the
we're
rich.
talking about now is that the people who are denied
Irrelevant.
access to abortion are the poor, are the young, are 14-year-olds who are molested by a family member. And we now have support across this country 3 out of 4 Americans believe in the rule of Roe versus Wade. When you've got 3 out of 4 Americans supporting it, we should be able to get that passed through Congress. We should not leave this to the Supreme Court. We should do it through democracy because we can.
Thank you very much, Senator.
As some of you have indicated, the differences between all of you on this stage are tiny compared to the differences between you and President Trump. There are, however, fundamental differences between many of you on this stage. Vice President Biden, just on either side of you, Senator Warren is calling for big structural change. Senator Sanders is calling for a political revolution. Will their visions attract the kind of voters that the Democrats need to beat Donald Trump?
Well, I think their vision is attracting a lot of people. And I think a lot of what they have to say is really important. But, Senator Warren said we can't be running any vague campaigns. We got to level with people. We've got to level with people and tell them exactly what we're going to do, how we're going to get it done, and if you can get it done. I'm going to say something that is probably going to offend some people here, but I'm the only one on the stage that's got
say it ain't so, Joe.
Big done, from the Violence Against Women Act to making sure that we pass the Affordable Care Act to be in a position where we, in fact, took almost a $90 billion
ironic that the Republicans are more
kept us
atheists
from going
than
into a depression, making us in a
more cultish
position
behavior.
where I was able to end able to end the issue of gun sales in terms of assault weapons. And so the question is, who is best prepared? We all have good ideas. The question is, who's going to be able to get it done? How can you get it done? And
This is the guy that wants to hold a nuclear football.
That's what we should look at.
He's not even sure which conversation he's having. He's mixing Roe v. Wade in
Tell people what it's going to cost,
with gun control.
how you're going to do it, and why you're going to do it. That's the way to get it done. Presidents are supposed to be able to persuade.
Just to clarify, Vice President, who are you saying is being vague?
Well, the senator said she's being vague on the issue of, actually both of them being vague on the issue of the Medicare for all.
He broke him.
No, look, here's the deal. Come on. It costs $30 trillion. Guess
40.
what?
Really?
That's over $3 trillion a year. It's
past Joe's bedtime.
Let me finish, okay?
If
you eliminated the entire Pentagon, every single thing, plane, ship, troop, the buildings, everything, satellites, it would pay for a total of 4 months. 4 months. Where do you get the rest? Where does it come from?
Senator Sanders.
My nonprofit sub will also include
working
Six
with
robots
Republicans and getting things done.
for anyone who can't afford
But you
it.
know what you also got done, and I say this as a good friend. You got
I'm
the
not really
disastrous war
alive.
in Iraq done. You got a bankruptcy bill which is hurting middle-class families all over this country. You got trade agreements.
I died 11 months
like
ago.
NAFTA and PNTR with China done, which have cost us 4 million jobs. And let's get
It's
to
the power
Medicare
of being
for
dead.
all. Let's be honest. We spend twice as much per person as do the people of any other
I will make
major
a nation of one
country
day.
on earth. And the answer is, if we have the guts, and I would like to
I
see
am the
the
zombie
Democratic
apocalypse.
Party have that guts.
Our healthcare
to
is
stand
twice
up
as
to the
good
drug
as
companies
anywhere else on
and
earth.
the insurance companies and tell them that the function of healthcare is to guarantee care to all people, not to
I
make
guarantee
$100
brains
billion
in every
of
American
profit.
pot.
If
Thank you,
we
Senator.
stood together, we could create the greatest healthcare
Vice
system
President Biden, you
in
can
the world.
respond, and then Senator Warren.
We can do that without Medicare for all. We can do that by adding a public option. We can.
No, you
and we can
can't.
afford to do it.
You
We
gotta
can
take
afford-
on
the
the
billionaire? I
greed,
can't see.
the profiteering
No, that's
of
Biden.
the healthcare
It's Biden and Sanders.
Let him
Oh,
respond,
shit.
Vice President.
Old versus
the
old.
profiteering of those insurance companies. They are as much against my bill as they are anybody else. They were strongly against Obamacare. They know it costs them, and it's going to take away the right of people to choose, the 160 million people out there who've negotiated their health insurance, and they want to keep it.
Senator-
They should have a right to keep it.
Senator Warren, your response.
So you started this question with how you got something done. You know, following the financial crash of 2008, I had an idea for a consumer agency that would keep giant banks from cheating people. And all of the Washington insiders and strategic geniuses said, don't even try, because you will never get it passed.
Because you'll
And sure
never get
enough,
another
big
red cent
banks
into
fought
your
us,
campaign
the
treasury.
Republicans fought us, some of the Democrats fought us. But we got that agency
I like what he has
passed
to
into
say.
law. It has now forced big banks to return more than $12 billion directly to people they cheated.
He's a
I
voter.
served in the Obama
He's
administration.
well-spoken.
I know what we can do by executive authority, and I will use it.
That's funny.
In Congress, on the first day, I will pass my anti-corruption bill, which will beat back the
Thank you, Senator.
influence of
Standing up.
money and repeal the filibuster. And the third, we want to get something done in America. We have to get out there
Thank
and
you, Senator.
fight for the things that touch
Mayor-
people's
Mayor-
lives.
I
All
agree.
due
Let
respect
me,
to
she
Aaron
should reference
Sports,
me. I
may he rest in
agreed
peace.
with the great job she did. And I went on the floor and got
Oh,
you.
so now we're just.
I got votes for that bill.
Is that Biden
I
again?
convinced people
Yeah.
to vote for it. So
Tell him
let's
to
get
shut
those
up,
things
Scub.
straight too.
Senator
Oh,
Warren, you want
okay.
to respond?
Whoa.
I am deeply grateful to President Obama, who fought so hard to make
Ooh,
sure
burn.
that agency was passed into law. And I am deeply grateful
So, did I ever tell you
every
that I actually had
single
sex with
person
President Obama?
who fought for it
I was the
and
top.
who helped
Yeah, you sent me
pass
the
it
video.
into law.
Yeah.
I'm gonna release it next week.
You did a hell of a job of your job.
Thank you.
Hashtag you too.
But understand
Hashtag
this.
I'm
It
afraid of
was a
Michelle.
dream big, fight hard. People told me, go for something little. Go for something small. Go for something that the big corporations will
I
be
accept you.
able to accept. I
Thank you,
said,
Senator.
no, let's go for an agency that will make structural change in our economy. And
Senator, thank you.
President Obama said, I will fight for that. And he
I will
sometimes
smoke the peace
had to
pipe on
fight
the White
against
Buffalo.
people in his own administration. We have
Not
to be
me.
willing to make
Mayor Buttigieg.
good, big structural change.
Mayor Buttigieg, which is the right vision for a Democrat to beat Donald Trump? That's the essential question.
If I had a buck for every argument that I've witnessed like this, I could pay for college
would
for
have it.
everybody. We need to move past what has been consuming this whole political space for as long as I've been alive.
Which
We're being
is-
offered a false choice. I don't agree with the vice president that Trump is an aberration.
Because
I
the
don't
vice
agree that there's
president
any
is a pervert.
such thing as back to normal. Because here in the industrial Midwest, definitely where I live, normal didn't work. That's part of how we got here. That's part of how a
And
guy
we
like Donald
still
Trump
feel it.
managed to get within cheating distance of the Oval Office in the first place. But I also don't agree with Senator Warren that the only way forward is infinite partisan combat. Yes, we have to fight. Absolutely, we have to fight for the big changes at hand, but it's going to take more than fighting. Once again, I want to take you back to that day after Trump has stopped being president. Think about what the president can do to unify a new American majority for some of the boldest things we've attempted in my lifetime. Medicare for all who want it. Actually getting something done on immigration for the first time since the 80s. An assault weapons ban, which would be a huge deal. Making college free for low and middle income students. Yet there's some here on this stage who say it doesn't count unless we go even further. Free college
I
for
wouldn't
low
give
and
every
middle income
immigrant an
students isn't good
AR-15.
enough unless we're also paying for the children of billionaires.
Right?
Immigration
It's a
reform isn't
birthright.
enough unless we also
Right.
decriminalize border
Welcome to
crossings.
America.
We have an
Green
opportunity
card,
to do the
AR-15.
biggest things we've done in my lifetime.
I did not
and
say
bring
back
it
to
back
normal.
together.
Thank you, Mayor. Senator Klobuchar.
Thank
Senator
you.
Klobuchar.
You know, this isn't a flyover part of the country to me. The heartland is where I live.
Is this
And
closing?
I want to
No,
win
this
those
is what
states
is the
that we
right
lost
vision?
last time, and I have bold ideas
this
to get us there. And I think
quasi-Hispanic
just
thing?
because
Is
they're
she
different
black?
than
Is she
Elizabeth
Hispanic? I
doesn't
can't
mean they're
tell.
bold. But we
It's
can't get
Klobuchar.
any of this done on climate change or immigration reform unless they win.
And the
what I
question
have
is,
done
what is the
win,
right
and
vision
only
for a
one up
Democrat
here,
to beat
time
Trump?
and time
She
again,
has a
the
neurological
reddest of
disease.
red
She's like
districts.
Casey.
Michelle Bachmann. I won that district 3 times. Rural districts that border Iowa and North and South Dakota. And I do it by going not just where it's
This is a
comfortable,
sneaky
but where
check.
it's uncomfortable. And that is why I have been in Pennsylvania and in Michigan and in Wisconsin and all over Ohio and in Iowa. Because I think we need to build a blue Democratic wall around those states and
Thank you.
make Donald Trump pay for it.
Senator Warren, she referenced you, so you can respond.
Now, people who are struggling to pay health care
They think they're
are
us.
fighting today. People who are getting crushed by student loans
They think they
are
can
in
get
a
up there and
fight
make
today. People who are getting
crappy
stopped
political
by
jokes
the
and people will
police
like it.
or paid less because of the color of their skin are in a fight today. And anyone who doesn't understand that Americans are already in these fights is not someone who's likely to win them. For me, this is about knowing what's broken, knowing how to
I'm
fix
thinking
it.
Elizabeth
and yes,
Warren is
I'm
Bush.
willing to get out there and
Maybe
fight
a 2-inch penis,
Senator Sanders,
but will
why is your approach more likely to beat President Trump?
I'll tell you why.
Please
and here's the radical reason why. It's what
I'm
American
undead.
people want.
Yes.
All right? The American people do not want tax breaks for billionaires. They want the rich to
I've
start
come
paying
back
their
from
fair
the
share of
dead.
taxes. Poll came out yesterday. 71% of Democrats support Medicare for all. The
I
people
can't
of
be
this
killed.
country understand that we've got to make public colleges and universities tuition free. And more Americans, including Republicans, understand we
brains.
need bold action if we're going to save this planet for our children and our grandchildren. The way
Right.
you win an election in this time in history is not the same old, same old. You have to inspire people. You have to excite
I
people.
got Worcestershire
You gotta
shish
bring
sauce in my
working
brain,
people,
my eyes.
young people, and poor people into the
Oh, what
political
was that
process
from?
because they know
Was that a South Park? That was South Park, wasn't it?
Congressman O'Rourke,
Yeah.
is political revolution what the American people want? Your response.
There was some talk
You're a
about
bad kitty.
getting big things done. When I was first elected to Congress, I found that El
Who's this
Paso,
dude, Seb?
Texas had the worst wait
Huh?
times
What's that?
in the
Who
country
is
to
it?
see a mental
This
health
Beto.
care provider at the VA. I don't know how sensational or exciting
You're
that
a
was
fucking
to everyone in the
parasite.
country.
He's
or even
gonna go
most people in
far.
El Paso, but it was
He's
important
gonna
to
go
those
so
veterans
far.
who I served. So we set about turning around the VA, hiring up the psychiatrists and
I've been
psychologists and
outraged.
therapists to
I'm
take
going
care
to get
of
high
those women
position.
and men who
I'm
put
going
their
to text a
lives
lot of young
on
women.
the line for this country. And we were
Eventually I'll be
able
caught, but
to
not
do
now.
that. And we took what we
I'll
learned
net worth of
and we applied
$6.8
it
million.
to a national law as a member of the minority working with Republicans and
Kickstarter,
Democrats alike
motherfuckers.
to expand
Kickstarter
mental
for
health care
politics.
access for veterans
So the question on the
nationally.
table is
And then in Texas,
political
one of
revolution
was
what
thought
the
to be
American
the
people
reddest
want?
states in the country, going to
Yeah.
every single
Thank you,
county,
Congressman.
talking about this
We want the
progressive
same thing
agenda
the
and winning
USSR
more
people
votes
want.
than any
Blue jeans
Democrat
and
has
stuff.
ever won. That's the way that we defeat Donald Trump in
Congressman
November
O'Rourke,
of
thank you.
2020.
We have to take a quick break. The CNN
We'll
New York
accept
Times
the
debate
rest if we can
live
get
from
together.
Ohio will continue right after this.
Okay, so we're on break now, and then it's going to be closing arguments.
Bring Frost on. Bring his ass on.
He's listening, so
I need to question him about those pictures.
he just can unmute whenever he wants.
Unmute Spawn. Son of a... So, Sub, you've had an intimate relationship with Frost.
Not quite. I wouldn't characterize it like that.
I mean, he's a clean-shaven man.
Well, he's follically challenged, as he likes to say.
I've got a helmet he can wear that is FDA approved to regrow that hair. It can grow it on his back. I've proven that. It can grow it on his head.
You can take that up with him. He's been doing it for decades, so he may not actually want to change. I'm not sure.
It works better with the little minoxidil. The little minoxidil and the laser therapy goes a long way.
I think it was like 24, 23, 24, 25, somewhere in there when, I was, I'd like take a shower in the morning before I go to work and like I would have like clumps of hair coming out. And so I got worried about it and I went to the doctor and the doctor said, get minoxidil. Like, yeah. Well, I mean, there wasn't a generic at that point. It was still Rogaine. So, like, go get some Rogaine. Like, I'm not going to write you a script for it. It's over the counter. Go get it. And I never did. And whatever was going on there, it kind of subsided. Still thinned a lot. But I actually took the opportunity over the summer to shave completely bald for the first time. And that was an interesting experience. I actually kind of enjoyed it. And, because we're in the Halloween season, I have the opportunity to do that again in the near future. So I'm going to. Do. So Oh, look at that. You lost your call again. Why is it not coming through? I'm working on it. Hey.
So, what are you doing?
I didn't do anything. I'm sitting here talking to you. You can go back and
Well, start again. The last thing I heard was minoxidil. I went to take an instant piss, dumped my whiskey, dumped my laptop, dumped the whole ordeal.
Well, first world problems.
Right.
So I was just saying that I had the opportunity over the summer to, well, whatever. I never did the Rogaine. Doctor said to, but I never did it. The problem went away. But over the summer, I had the opportunity to shave my head for the first time, and I actually enjoyed it. And I actually thought that I didn't look terrible, which is weird because I don't really give a crap about how I look most of the time. But I thought that it actually looked, decent. And I enjoyed the feeling, the sensation. It was like a new thing. So anyway, that was part of a costume that I did over the summer for Comic-Con. And so I put that costume together. I'm going to do that costume again for Halloween. So I have a Halloween party coming up, and then I have actual Halloween. So I'll get to do that twice. So I'll be going bald again here pretty soon. And we are back. So this should be the wrap-up. We may want to pay more attention to what they're saying now because, they've said so much important stuff so far.
All of you to weigh in on last week. Ellen DeGeneres was criticized after she and former President George W. Bush were seen laughing together at a football game. Ellen defended their friendship, saying we're all different, and I think that we've forgotten that that's okay, that we're all different. So in that spirit, we'd like you to tell us about a friendship that you've had that would surprise us, what impacts it's had.
I think Ellen should run for president.
Secretary Castro,
DeGeneres?
Yeah.
First of all, thank you
she
to
got the Democratic vote, that's for sure.
Anderson, and thank
I
you,
don't
Aaron,
object to her.
CNN, and,
I wasn't a huge fan of
New York
Disney
Times
bit.
and everybody who's here tonight. Some of the most interesting friendships that I've had.
I think she's got a better chance than anyone on the stage.
Different from me, either people older than me that had a lot to teach me, or people who grew up very different from me. Also, teachers.
So
as I was growing up.
I can't share because it's
when I
fucking
was
group
growing
call.
up was beyond mine.
So what friendship have you had that would surprise us, and what impact has it had on you and your beliefs? That is the question.
You have to share.
I can't because stupid Facebook.
And I think that there's a value to that. I think that that should be reflected more.
We'll do this on Skype next time or a different platform.
I also believe, to just speak about the incident last week with Ellen and George W. Bush, I completely understood what she was saying about being kind to others. I believe that we should be more kind to other folks. I also believe that we should hold people to account for what they've done, especially public servants who have a record of having done something or not done something. And I think that we can do both of those things. I think
this is, what's his name, the Spanish guy.
Hold them accountable for their actions. And there are people, whether it's our former president, George W. Bush, or others, that should be held accountable.
That dude with the power tie?
No. This is the guy from Texas, the former HUD director or whatever he was.
Congresswoman Gabbard.
Thank you. Where I come from in Hawaii, many of you know we greet each other with aloha. It's not a word that means hello and goodbye. It actually means something much more powerful than that.
Julian Castro. That's who that was.
Respect.
Julian.
And a recognition
and this is your chick.
All brothers and sisters. We're all God's children.
Yeah, Tulsi Gabbard.
So I've developed friendships that some people may be surprised about within the Washington circles, especially with Republicans like Trey Gowdy, for example. He and I disagree a lot and very strongly on a lot of political issues. We've developed a friendship that's based on respect, and he's been there for me during some personally challenging.
It's funny. I know you can't see because Facebook sucks, but
before us today is that our country is
I keep having to go to
Donald
a cheat sheet
Trump
over here because CNN is not really
but we
putting
must
their
do
names
more
up
than
on the
just
screen.
defeat
They're
Donald
just
Trump.
expecting us
We
to know who
need
these
to
people are.
deliver a win
Big
for the
fail on
American
CNN's part.
people. We must stand united as Americans, remembering that we are all brothers and sisters, that we are all connected. This is the kind of leadership that I seek to bring as president, inspired by the example of presidents like Abraham Lincoln, who talked about how we should have malice for none and charity for all. When I look out at our country, I don't see deplorables. I see fellow Americans. People who I treat with respect, even when we disagree, and when we disagree strongly. I will work to restore a White House that represents light and compassion
I know you
and
like it because you
respect
said the
for
house
every
being
American,
white,
regardless of
I don't
race,
care about that.
religion,
I like this
orientation, gender.
Well, no, she's like, Pacific-y looking. She's from Hawaii.
Join me in bringing about this government of, by, and for the people that serves all the people of this country. You can visit my website, tulsi2020.com, for more information.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Senator Klobuchar?
For me, it's John McCain, and I miss him every day. I traveled all over the world with him.
She reminds me of lunch lady that I had in elementary school.
And they would look away from me. He'd say, Senator Klobuchar is the lead Democrat
I'll
on this trip, and she will go next.
Liver or
and I still remember being there at his ranch. John and I went to visit him and Cindy when he was dying. And he pointed to some words in his book because he could hardly talk. And the words said this: there is nothing more liberating in life than fighting for a cause larger than yourself. That's what we're doing right now. And while we have had major debates about policy, we have to remember that what unites us is so much bigger than what divides us. And we have to remember that our job is to not just change policy, but
It's
to change
to
the
impeach
tone
Trump.
in our politics, to look up from our phones, to look at each other, to start talking to each other, because the way we win, and not just win the presidency, but take back the U.S. Senate, is by winning big. And the way we win big is with that fired up Democratic base that's out there today, but it is also about bringing in independents and moderate Republicans. I can lead this, and I ask you to join me because I've done it before, and I will do it again. AmyKlobuchar.com. Join our team. Thank you.
This is what the Jackie lady like.
Mr. Steyer, tell us about your most surprising friendship.
So I'm friends with a woman from Denmark, South Carolina, named Deanna Barry, who's fighting for clean water and environmental justice in her community. She's a different gender, she's a different race, she's from a different part of the country. But she reminds me of my parents in terms of her courage and her optimism and her heart.
Steyer.
My mother was a school teacher in the New York Public Schools and in the Brooklyn House of Detention. My father was the first generation in his family to go to college. My grandfather was a plumber.
The way his head moves, it looks like he's a marionette.
He agreed to go into the Navy in World War II, and he ended up prosecuting the Nazis at Nuremberg. And when I asked him what that experience meant, he said, "When you see something
He does kind of
wrong in
look
your
like Ross
society,
Perot.
you fight it from
I
the
think
first
said I
day
like
and every single
millionaires.
day after."
I like
And
millionaires.
that's why I started the Need to Impeach
And
movement 2
I'll
years ago.
tolerate the poor,
because
but
there
they're a
was
pain in the
something
ass.
terribly wrong at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. And over 10 years ago, I saw that there was a terrible threat to the safety and health of every American in terms of the climate crisis.
I much prefer
And I've been
millionaires
fighting
and
those
billionaires.
companies with the help of the
Also,
American
his
people
tie,
ever
I don't know,
since
you can't see it right now,
and
but
that's why I'm running for president,
billionaire
because our
Tom
government has
Steyer, his
failed. It's been bought by
Steyer,
corporations,
his
and it's
tie is
absolutely
like a
essential to return
tartan cloth
power
or
to the
something.
people. I have been
It's
doing
a plaid
exactly what
tie.
my
It's
parents
very
taught me to
strange.
do, which is to take on the biggest problems in America
Yeah, he's a
directly
billionaire. He can do
and
what the
fight
fuck he
for them
wants to do.
every single
Respect.
day.
Well, except for when the Democratic nomination. Like, this
I've
guy's
always
going
tried
nowhere.
to bring people in to the solutions that we have to our common challenges, regardless of the differences. I did that as a small business
This is
owner
Beto.
more than 20 years ago, making sure that we could get a small tech company off the ground in El Paso, Texas. Did it as a member of the city council, where I saw my colleagues not as Republicans or Democrats, but my fellow El Pasoans who had a responsibility to deliver for our community.
I don't know if it's
As a
fair to
member of
compare
Congress, I
Beto
remember
to
being in
Tate.
San Antonio. I was
It may
visiting
be
the
unfair to
VA
Tate.
there March of 2017.
He kind of looks like Elrond.
Been snowed in
I bet he
in
gets a
Washington,
lot of
DC.
girls out
Happened
there.
to be in the elevator.
He's
with
got
a
pointy
member
ears like a
of
Vulcan.
Congress, Will Hurd.
He's gonna
And on a
live
whim,
long
I
and
said,
prosper.
"Do you want to just rent a car and drive from San Antonio to Washington?"
I can get
And
a
he
lot of
called my
pussy,
bluff.
but I'm
We
an
got
ass.
into a
No,
Chevy
that's not what you said. You said, "Hey, man, you want to rent a car and drive to DC?"
Across the country,
Cool.
live streamed the conversation, a Republican and a Democrat finding out what we had in
And I'm
common.
a felon,
By
so
the end
none
of
of
that
you
trip, not
fuckers
only
can
had we
have
formed
guns.
a friendship, but we had formed trust. We worked with each
And I'm
other on
Hispanic,
each other's
even
bills. I
though
got
I'm
Will
Beto.
to work with
Wait,
me on
what?
an immigration
What was
bill.
it that he did again? He ran over a little girl while he was drunk driving.
Work together on an otherwise contentious
Was that what it was?
issue.
Full board member of the Nazi Party. He's right up there with Trudeau with the blackface, great north.
Record numbers as
He had his own dogfighting ring.
And together
What
to
crime
face the
hasn't
common
he
challenges that we have and to make sure that America rises to this opportunity.
Because
Senator
I'm going to
Booker,
get a
tell us about your
cabinet
most
position,
surprising
you
friendship.
fucks,
Well, look,
because
I have so
Americans
many, I don't
are
even know where to
dumb.
count. I was the mayor of a
Dumb,
large
dumb,
city that
dumb.
was a Republican governor. He and I
Dumb.
had to form a friendship, even though I can write
Dummy,
a dissertation
dummy,
on our
dummy, dummy.
disagreements. When I got to the United States Senate,
Dummy.
I went there with the
Dummy,
purpose
dummy.
of making friendships across
Dumb,
the
dumb,
aisle.
dumb, 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 dumb,
I go
dumb,
to
dumb, dumb, dumb.
Bible study in Chairman Inhofe's office.
Dumb.
He and I passed legislation
Oh,
together
dumb.
to help homeless
And you're
foster
dumb,
kids.
and I am
I went out
smart.
to try to
You
invite
look
every one of my
mean.
Republican colleagues
Point
to dinner. And let me
me.
again say,
Dumb, dumb,
finding
dumb,
a dinner
dumb,
in a
dumb.
restaurant, agreeing on one with Ted
Okay,
Cruz was
he
a
did not hit
very
anyone,
difficult
but
thing.
he was
I'm a
arrested for a
vegan,
Dewey,
he's
and
a
that was his
meat-eating
second
Texan. But I'll tell you this right
offense.
now. This
Dummy,
is the
dummy, dummy.
moment in America that this is our test.
And dummy.
The
And I'm going
spirit
to have
of our
sex with
country,
young
I
women and
believe
dummy,
in the
dummy, dummy,
values
dummy,
of
dummy,
rugged
dummy.
individualism and self-reliance. But think
Dummy.
about our history. Rugged individualism didn't get us to the moon.
Lord
It didn't
alone
beat
moved the
Nazis.
wheels of
It didn't
history.
map the human genome. It didn't
Dummy.
beat Jim Crow. Everything
And
we
Jim,
did
Jim,
in
Jim,
this
Jim.
country
Jimmy.
big. And Vice President, we have
Jim.
done so many big things.
Jim.
The fact that there's an openly gay man, a
Hey,
black woman, all of us on the stage are because we in the past are all inheritors of a legacy
Did you know
of common struggle.
that mapping the human
This
genome
election is not a referendum
did
on
not
one guy
defeat
in one
Jim
office.
Crow?
It's a referendum on who we are and who we must be to each
Dummy,
other.
dummy, dummy.
The next leader is going to have to be one amongst us Democrats that can unite us all, not throw elbows at
Take
other Democrats
hold
that
the
are
guns.
unfair, because the preparation is being the leader that can revive civic grace in our country, teach us a more courageous empathy, and remind America that patriotism is love of country. And you cannot love your country unless you love your fellow
So, are you
countrymen
familiar
and
with
women.
the Viking
And love is not
ritual of the
sentimentality, it's not
red
anemic.
eagle?
Love is struggle, love is sacrifice. Love is the words of our founders who said
You,
at the end of the
the
Declaration of
Viking
Independence
ritual of
that
the
if we're
say
ever
again?
gonna make it as a nation, we
It's where
must
like they cut the
mutually
back and they
pledge to
spread
each
the ribs
other
out.
our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor.
I mean,
I am running
I'm
for president to
I'm aware
restore
that that's a
sacred
thing.
honor. If
I
you
don't
believe in it
know
like I do,
in
please
what
join me by
context
going
it is a
to
thing,
booker.com.
or was a thing rather.
Senator, Mr. Yang.
I think that they did it in 7 though, the movie.
If you don't feel like you answered you got your question answered tonight, it's understandable. There are 12 of us. I'm going to be answering voter questions for 10 straight hours this Friday. My
Also
website,
in
Yang2020.com.
what was that one
If
with
you ask your
Antonio
question tonight, there's a better
Banderas?
chance I'll get to it. My surprising friendship.
The Arab dude that
It's
circled
been
with
so
the
much fun
Vikings?
running for president because I've gotten to meet so
Yeah.
many Americans I never would have gotten to meet otherwise. The friendship
know.
that sticks out for me
What
is
the
a
hell
guy
was that
named
called?
Fred, who's an avid Trump supporter, a trucker. He let me ride in his truck for hours. He
Who the
spent
fuck
some
is this,
time in
bro? I can't
jail.
see.
I heard about his experience.
This is
He was
Yang.
trying to get other people off
for
of
the Yang.
drugs. And I'm happy to say that after our ride together, he actually said that he would move from Donald Trump to my campaign, which was a thrill for me. And we've remained in touch ever since. The truth is that what happened to the 4 million manufacturing workers
Okay,
here in Ohio and
what?
Michigan and Pennsylvania and Wisconsin and
Like,
Iowa did
I
not
gave this
care
guy a
about our
car
political
ride,
party.
and
The
he
fourth
decided
industrial
to
revolution
stop
is
supporting
now
Trump
migrating
and
from
decided to start
manufacturing workers
supporting
to
me.
retail,
Well,
call centers,
you and Omega
transportation,
hate
as well as to
Yang
white-collar
for the
workers
same
like
reason you hate
attorneys,
King.
pharmacists, and
You're the same person
radiologists.
that's from
It does
Hawaii
not
and
care
you hate
about our
Hawaii.
party.
And so does
Donald
Omega.
Trump had a set of solutions in 2016. What did he say? He said, we're going to build a wall. We're going to turn the clock back. We're going to bring the old jobs back. America, we have to do the opposite of all of these things. We have to turn the clock forward. We have to accelerate our economy and society as quickly as possible. We have to evolve in the way we think about ourselves and our work and our value. It is not left. It is not right.
I still think he's got the best overall message on stage.
Mr. Yang, thank you very much. Senator Harris?
Especially considering that
Thank you.
you know the majority of the Democratic voting base is going to be millennials, or maybe not the majority, but you know there's going to be a big disparity in millennial voters between Republican and Democrat this time, and they're going to fall mostly on.
And it really made the point that the
This
vast
is
majority
Kamala.
of us have so much more in common than
We
what
don't even
separates
care
us.
what she
And I
says.
guess that's where I'm running. I do
So
believe
people
that
understand that the
beat
Democratic
Donald
Party
Trump,
will
but
never
also
vote
to
for a
heal our
Yang.
country. We need a leader who has the ability to unify our country and see that the vast
Well, yeah,
majority
they're
of
still
us
trying to
have
get
so
over
much
that whole
more in
David
common
Duke
than
thing,
what
so I can
separates us.
kind
And I'll tell you,
of see see that.
My
Yeah.
mother was 19 when she left India alone.
Holy shit,
she wanted to travel to learn science.
She's not
Hispanic.
Hispanic.
Mission in life
She's
she's
more Indian
she
than
arrived in California. She got
Warren.
You know, she was supposed to have an arranged marriage, but she got involved in the civil rights movement. She met my father, and that produced my sister and me. They got married, but when I was 5, that marriage ended. But my mother convinced us that we could do anything.
Like when a man and a woman love each other very much,
the second black woman
they
elected to the United States Senate.
They can decide that they want to have children, and that's how I was born, and that's why you should vote for me.
My story would not be possible, and I am running to make sure that that dream, the American dream, American values, American ideals, will always hold true. And so that's what is at stake in this election, and I believe I am uniquely able to see the commonalities among us and to speak the story of the American dream and the need to reclaim it.
Thank you, Senator Harris. Mayor Buttigieg?
Well, I think about the friendships that I formed in the military. People who were radically different from me, different generation, different race, definitely different politics. And we learned to trust each other with our lives. When they got into my vehicle, and when we went outside the wire, they didn't care if I was going home to a boyfriend or a girlfriend. They didn't care what country my dad immigrated from and whether he was documented or not. We just learned to trust each other. In fact, the fact that I want every American to have that experience without having to go to war to get there is one of the reasons why I believe national service is so important. I guess I'll follow in the pattern tonight and point out.
I'm just going to assume that I understood what you said because Buttigieg actually talked over you, and I'm going to decline to answer any of those questions right now.
I would if I were you.
I think we have a crisis of belonging in this country that is helping to explain so many of our problems.
Do you Buttigieg me?
Being what it is, to the fact that people are self-medicating, and we're seeing a rise in the deaths from despair.
Well, that's his name, right? Buttigieg.
Buttigieg. Well, that's a vote in his favor.
The purpose of the presidency is not the glorification of the president. It is the unification of the American people. And I'm asking for your vote to be that president. When the dust clears over the rubble of our norms and institutions at the end of the Trump presidency, pick up the pieces and guide us toward a better future.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. Senator Sanders?
I'm not really alive.
When I was chairman of the Senate Committee on Veterans Affairs,
and they had to remove my heart and replace it with a Cobra jar.
Piece of veterans legislation in modern American history, and I failed.
Put my sarcophagus in the pyramid
in the Senate, so we had to go back to the drawing board. And I worked with John McCain, and
I was having a conversation with Akhenaten,
working with McCain, all that I wanted. But it turned out that we were able to pass a very, very significant piece of legislation, including $5 billion
Book of the Dead that Osiris would allow it.
More recently, I worked with a very conservative Republican from Utah, Mike Lee. And Mike understood,
and Mike would never tear my bandages because I'm a mummy.
The U.S. involvement in the Saudi-led war in Yemen was a catastrophic disaster for the people of Yemen. And for the first
I told
time
the Thundercats that I'm Mumra.
We were able to get the War Powers Act utilized and get the votes to get the U.S. troops out of that area.
And I had various animal followers like Lizard Man.
What I appreciate is that we have got to end the hatred that Trump is fostering on our people, the divisiveness.
And if you angle the mirrors to my temple, I will rejuvenate.
We were born, or our sexual orientation, or our religion.
And I'll have sex with everybody.
There is no job that I would undertake with more passion.
Because I have blue pills,
bringing our people together
and I'm Mumra.
Around an agenda that works for every man, woman, and child in this country.
As long as you'll let me look in a mirror,
and the 1%.
I will defeat the
agenda
Thundercats.
That stands for all is the way that we transform this country.
Senator Sanders, thank you. Senator Warren.
Series about Third Earth.
You asked about a surprising friend. For me, it would be Charles Freed. 27 years ago, when I was under consideration for a job, he was someone who had been George Bush the first Solicitor General, a deeply principled Republican. And
If
we
you throw
didn't
your
agree
corn
on
with your
much.
lima beans,
I
you'll have...
was far more liberal than he was. But he also was willing to listen to my work about what's happening to America's middle class.
So that's her message, because she's being accused of being too much in the corporate pocket.
This lady has never made flatbread in her life.
I have 3 older brothers. They all served in the military. 2 of the 3 are still Republicans. I love all 3 of my brothers. And
Not
there are
the
a lot of
carnal
things
way.
that we're divided on. But there are core things that we believe in together. We want to see all of our children
We
get a
all
good
believe we
start
should
in
have
life.
fiber to have a nice
We don't
bowel
want to
movement.
see any of our friends or neighbors
I wonder if any of her brothers would vote for her.
healthcare. We're willing to get out there for the things we believe in. Look,
She's
people
fucking crazy.
across this country, whether they're Democrats, independents, or Republicans, they know what's broken. They know that we have an America that's working better and better and better for a thinner and thinner and thinner
And while
slice
I'm sure
at
her
the
brothers
top
love their
and
brother,
leaving everyone
this
else
chick is a
behind.
dude.
People across this country,
I don't think she even has a coherent message here. I think she's
say
just saying words.
we want
I
an America
respect
that
her
works for everyone.
right to identify
2020 is
as
our
a
moment
Native
in
American,
history.
an Indian,
It is a deep honor to be
girl,
here, to be in
but
this
this
fight.
is a dude.
I know what's broken. I know how to fix it. And we are building a
And she gets
grassroots movement
morning
to
wood,
get it
or
done
he.
that includes everyone.
Thank you, Senator Warren. Vice President Biden?
And I would wash my
This
hands
is,
after I touch
reassuring.
him.
And the fact that we're all acknowledging that we have to reach across the aisle, get things done.
Creepy Joe.
No other way to get anything done in this country.
Holy shit, he's reaching
2
across
people
the aisle.
maybe would surprise you the most were
What the fuck is he
he's
touching?
been mentioned twice, but John McCain. John McCain worked for me.
It was probably a
when he worked
7-year-old
in the
girl.
Navy, and he was
I think it was John
assigned to me to
McCain.
travel around the world.
I think this
We
dude
became close
straddled
friends.
John McCain's
Became
fucking
very close
corpse,
friends with my wife Jill. Visited our
sprouted
home. He
a
visited
little
with his
morning
children.
wood.
And on his
and
deathbed,
Biden.
he asked me to do his eulogy.
I
John,
think
would
Biden
say to
fucking
John,
mounted
John, you
John
didn't see
McCain
a war
on
you
the
never wanted to
deathbed.
fight, and he'd say you didn't see a problem you never wanted to solve. But he
I
was
got
a
nothing
great
else to say.
man
It's
of
disgusting.
principle. He was honorable. He was honorable. And one of the things, that's the reason why I'm running. We have to restore
It's
the soul
because
of
when
this
John
country.
McCain was dead, I lubed him
That's
up.
why I'm doing this.
I
In
fucking
fact,
mounted him.
This
I wrote
president
him.
has ripped the soul out of this country.
Pretending I was
divided
Sophia
us in
Loren.
ways that are absolutely outrageous. A liar, he cheats, he does not do anything to promote people generally. Secondly,
But
we
Joe,
have to
he
rebuild
is
the middle
bottom.
class.
You
The only way
let
we're going to
Trump
do that is to be able to
top
reach
you.
across the aisle. My dad used to say, a job's about a lot more than a paycheck, Joey. It's
But
about
if you
your
don't do
dignity.
a reach
We have to
around, you're
restore
not a
people's
gentleman.
dignity. And lastly, we have to unite the country because, folks, it's time we stop walking around with our heads down. We are better positioned than any country in the world to own the 21st century. So for God's sake,
I think
get
this dude
up.
makes black
Get
people.
up and remember, this is the United States of America. There's nothing we've been unable to do when we decide we're going to do it. Nothing at all. Period.
This is the type of dude that would own
Candidates,
slaves.
thank you. That concludes the 4th
And he
Democratic
was broken.
presidential debate. We want to thank Otterbein University for hosting us. Now please stay tuned for CNN for special coverage of tonight's debate.
Well,
with Jake
son, I have
Tapper
no
and
doubt
Chris
my
Clark.
career is over. Thank you very much. I know this Boston's an absolute pussy who never got on. I don't blame him. And by the way, I don't mean to disparage pussies because, you know, we've talked about it. Pussy can withstand ultimate damage and still keep fucking you, but it's not fault.
Well, we're definitely among the resilient for having withstood 3 hours of that mess.
I'm not even sure we took it with lube or without lube. Jesus.
Oh, I think that you've had enough lube.
The question is, when we look at the other side, Jesus Christ, Trump is a parody. He's a caricature. I mean, he's a fucking alien. Men in Black. He's Michael Jackson. But still, I mean, like, the Republicans, he's sitting in that seat. I mean, we have to wonder, if they could go back into the Wayback Machine and have Ted Cruz, would they have done it? Don't you type at me, sub. Don't you do it. Just because the fight went down, because you don't manage the fucking thing. Would the Republicans selected Ted Cruz 8 years ago, 6 years ago, 4 years ago, would they have done it? So,
Yeah, sorry. I'm doing some tech support here in the background.
we got to get Gonzo off air because Ted Cruz, like if we could go back 6 years ago and have him as the Republican nominee, would the Republicans have been better off?
That's a great question. I think that America might be better off. I don't think that the Republicans would be better off.
Why would America be better off? Does not Donald Trump represent the spirit of America? We're assholes. We are assholes. It's just a mirror. Donald Trump, does he not represent the American spirit?
The cigarettes?
Fucking assholes.
No, I mean no, Trump does, right? He's quote unquote entrepreneur.
He's a New York
multimillionaire
liberal,
businessman. Ostensibly he's done all the things that we all aspire to be: be famous, be rich, be president. So, from that respect, he is a great American success story.
He's got a gold toilet, and he's got a string of supermodels of all colors. There is not a woman of any color he has not had his way with, willingly, consensually, because he is rich. And women love rich guys. Rich and powerful guys.
Well, I don't know about all that. But what I do know
yes,
is...
you do. Don't you be a pussy. Women love rich and powerful guys.
What I do know is that we are going to call this a wrap. So thank you very much for coming on. I'm sorry that we were having technical difficulties early. And also apologize to all of our listeners/viewers that we were having some early technical difficulties. Sorry that we couldn't get Frost on because he was having technical difficulties. I am sorry that CNN was having difficulties. And I'm sorry that we just watched 3 hours of that nightmare. But thank you all. And we'll see you on the forums. Make sure to visit us at bullshido.net/forums. Make sure to also hit that front page. We have lots of good content up there. Nice formatted and edited stuff that has earned us a reputation as one of the least biased news sources on the internet. So make sure you get there. And we will catch you all later.
Sub, I love you, but you're like antibiotic-resistant gonorrhea.
No, we got to make the plugs. We got to pay the bills, right? So that way we don't have technical issues next time. So, thanks again. This has been Gonzo and Sub Messenger for Bullshido.net, a completely unofficial, unsanctioned broadcast on our collective behalf. And we will catch you tomorrow. Actually, we're recording the next official podcast. And I will let you know on the forums what that is going to sound like.
Rabbit, name your price, and I will front the money for you guys to have relations. Light, slow, you can decide amongst yourself who's the top and the bottom. But I will front a substantial cash prize for that.
Well, let's talk about that offline. We're definitely...
You need the money.
Well, no, we want the money. It's not that we need the money. Like we can keep like we are forever, but we don't want to keep like we are. We want to grow. We want to be bigger and better. And
if you get AMP to jump in, I'll pay a bonus. Just for a reach around.
Get who? No, you're not getting a reach around. No. Joe Biden maybe. All right. So that's it. Thanks for coming out, and we will see you later. Good night.